reserves, say next month, right? I mean, they could use it for now.
Yeah.
And then that way, from the budget perspective, from the black and white perspective, we're still quote unquote funding.
Yeah. Yeah, you're saying. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a show game, I guess. You know what I mean? So it just.
But perception is reality as well. I don't want the message ever being out that we're not funding reserves, because we are.
The only thing that I can see being not problematic per se, but.
Do they require somehow?
No, not anymore.
Because I was thinking,
It's not required.
Okay, because I was thinking like, I'm speaking, it's not on the head.
No, it's all good.
So even if it's paid for from reserves, it's not money in it, it's an expense, right?
Yeah, but it would come from the money we've contributed, we've set aside this year's reserves, not our capital reserves. You know what I mean? So it would just come out, which we have money in reserves. I think to 200 in that ballpark. 200. High 200s, I think it's still like 114. So the financial statement also.
Yeah, I mean, the reserve fund is 2.6 million.
It's tough, it's random.
We get to reserve for the salary.
Are you looking at this year's expenses or next year's?
Well, look at both, right? So, I don't know what everybody's view is going on, obviously, wait for the meeting, but if we chose to move forward with the pool, the heating, we have a down payment to be made. And the reality is we're paying for it out of reserves no matter what, whether it's wait till October to pay for it, out of reserves to pay for reserves this year. If we pay for it this year, technically we could reduce the budget, or at least that line item, that deposit amount, or even do the whole thing. Because if you look at how the budget line item is laid out right now, for next year. See how it looks, is there a capital reserve, we've reduced it by 340. But we're not, right? We're just simply paying for this project out of reserves.
Well, we put our 340 in last year for this year.
Yeah, sure. But this year it's black and white, and for next year it's gonna look like we didn't fund the reserve. We did, we funded the reserve and then we immediately pulled out to pay for projects. That's not how black and white's gonna look. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what we don't want to do is pay the 340, inflate the O&M by 340, which in turn may increase in payments to everyone, just to turn on call 340 like that. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas if we swallow the 340 into this year's budget, pulling out reserves, we fund the 340 next year with the net zero concept, but no one has a perception of not funding the reserves. Whereas
Other option would be instead of
This is.
paying for it this year, leave it next year,
Is that
just shift that money back to capital, back to reserves.
John, do you know when they'll start events?
as long as the math doesn't end up as an increase.
When they'll
I
start
don't even
events?
see what
So, we just shift it.
No, that would be a good question for Teresa.
So instead of having
Oh,
capital
she
back to reserve,
is, oh, okay.
She's the one who manages the clubhouse. So she's the one that controls all the events and that kind of stuff.
I'd like to use it for the project. The visual to me is always contributed to the reserves. Right? In fact, you spend the reserves, a natural concept.
True. Or do they say, well, you already have $2.5 million, why are you sure? You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
like,
but typically, that's what the reserve fund is. I mean, you may not take it for 5 years. As long as you keep putting it there, it's gonna be a savings.
you know, the problem is then, well, why are we not getting this on our assessments, why are we paying assessments when you have all this money still reserved?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know, I could be arguing it this way and that.
And that's why I say always make it, let's pull money out of the reserve this year. Pay for it, and show we're still funding it for year. Okay?
Yeah,
It's a motto exercise, really, but
Yeah.
but for people who don't understand the budget process, I don't want them to have any alternatives. Because like, oh, well, you guys reduced our fundraising.
If you
Let's see.
go to,
See what
the
it is.
resource on the-
Right now?
Is it?
I don't know.
My son's doing swimming sessions.
Yeah, we had the irrigation right over there.
Okay, John.
Oh,
Right
the
away,
temporary staff us.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Those boxes in my.
By the time you finish, it's not gonna get any money.
That was perfect.
Whatever you want. We can talk about that when we get to that tax.
Welcome to the Activa collaboration with them.
On the price of it, maybe we below our.
So they gave me one that came in 308 or something. And they said, yeah. Right. Like, oh yeah, we forgot. Come on. But we'll be on it.
That's all.
Yeah.
Or just a case that.
Is that something additional? No. Oh, you're saying the terms?
Yeah. Just-
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Transfer for the town, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe over to the.
Yes.
That's the passing, it's not present.
Oh, no, that's fine. We should make that contingency. They must have no problem with it.
There's a trust down.
Okay.
Contractor requires a
That's what you do.
So you can do that, as your budget, you know what I mean? It's not-
Yeah, I think we got options.
That's parts, that way you can just have something like.
It's just seeing that as zero maybe
No, I understand.
pause. Is it?
Well, yeah, well, that's why,
So,
so that might be another option. Figure out about $100,000.
well, and also, we're only delaying, wait for the program
When
again.
we pay something out of reserve, it shows up on our O and M, doesn't it, as far as, check it, says that.
There's an overall balance of the year.
Right, overall balance, so yes, it does.
So if we go over inclusive of reserve, we still have to have the budget.
Can we get started? 6:30?
Which is the motion budget proclamation.
Do anybody have a call on mine, Tanya, go on the phone? Tanya? All right, this is a regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Seven Oaks Community Development District, being held Wednesday, May 12th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. Being held at the Seven Oaks Clubhouse located at 2910 Sports Corner Circle, Wesley Chapel, Florida, 33544. President representing quorum, we have President Jack Christensen. Here. Joshua Green. Here. Tom Graff. Here. Andrew Mendenhall. Here. Sean Graves. Here. Our District Council, Rebecca Barr. Myself, Sam Nielsen, District Management. And our clubhouse staff, we have Teresa Flores and John Gentilio. Justin? Jerry. Jerry. With down there, we have Jerry present. And we will begin with audience comments. Ms. Arani,
Yeah,
do I say that right?
yeah, well, you can call me Shiraz.
That's okay, Shiraz. I'll let you start off with audience comments.
Great, wonderful, thank you. Well, thank you, awesome, easier. Thank you for allowing me to present. I'm new to this community, I've only lived here a year, moved during the pandemic time. I moved from Corey Lake House. Before that, I was in the United Kingdom. And in Corey Lake House, I served on POA board. I was on the design review committee, so I feel I've had some experience. John was so good as to put on Facebook about presenting ideas, and I had one. And what you do with it is entirely up to you, of course, what the community decides. But you should have in front of you the presentation that I did email to you. It's about the monuments, it's about our entrances, and it's about our monument entrances to the villages. I believe that's 72. Is that correct? Something like that. What we did at Corey Lake House when I was on the design review, we updated our entrances because your home, when a visitor visits you, is the first thing they see is the exterior. The first thing that they see when they visit our community is our exterior. And red brick, I have design, design is my forte, and red brick is dated. Let's face it, it's very kind of 80s, 90s, even though this community was built in 2002. It's a dated thing. Red brick is now being changed with, like, you can do a whitewash, you can do a grey wash, you can do a stain, and I presented all the ideas. Paint is cheap, stain is cheap. But it gives, like, if you've been to Chicago, they'll have Chicago brick, where you'll look at red brick, and then you look at the beautiful aged brick. And our community is beautiful. We've got gorgeous landscaping, but it's against a harsh red brick with black, background and gold lettering, and it's unfortunately dated. So it's something that I want to consider in the future, whenever you guys decide. But it's something that we should actually actively look at because it is the first thing that you see. And like when you're looking at real estate, if you don't like the exterior of a house, guess what? You're not going to go in. And even though real estate is great right now, it won't always be the case. You've got newer, better communities, and you will be competing with those down the road. So I think it's something. It's a good time to consider that now. We want to keep the premiere within 7 Oaks. Corey Lake House did it. We updated our entrances. We updated our monuments, and I was on that design review team. I know Tampa Palms is doing the same thing. They hate the red brick. So please do look at all the techniques that I've mentioned. Those are just, you're not getting rid of the brick. Okay, you're going to show the beauty of the brick. You just want to tone that down, is what I'm saying. So it's just something to consider. It's cost effective with staining, cleaning. I've mentioned the techniques. If you want me to explain it more, I can. Or if you just want to do that in your own time. I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you for the idea. I know I talked to John a little bit about this as well and shared. So, personally, I like, the concept of refresh modernizing a little bit. My first concern with sitting on this board is I don't think this is a unilateral decision that we make. Right? We don't own all the monuments in 7 Oaks. Of course, we own the majority of them, not all of them. And it feels like this would be something more kind of a redesign, like a remarketing, of 7 Oaks a little bit. And so we have multiple HOAs throughout the community. We have obviously ourselves, and we clearly want large resident feedback. And with the residents council reactivated now, it seems to me like this would be something great for the residents council to take and to get cross buy-in of everybody in 7 Oaks. Obviously, that's not necessarily the shortest of processes, but probably something that would be appropriate. And then go from there. But it starts with an idea. So
It's not a redesign. We're not getting rid of the brick. We're showing the beauty of it. And the way that you sell it.
But changing the colors, if all of a sudden, the city repaint all of our monuments.
Yes.
Some people don't want us to change the room colors of this room.
I know.
Right? Some people literally will write letters and tell you it's not to do that. So I'm just saying that in general, I think that it's something, it is large. I know it is very easy. It's easy to get that perspective.
It is large.
But it is a change.
Yeah.
People don't like having green in their medians, let alone having something white instead of brick. So I'm not saying I'm opposed or against it. I'm thinking that the council has been tapped for this at all, John.
Not yet.
Feedback, but I don't even know formally how to do that, by the way. So you're helping me with that, but But I think maybe you can either connect,
Yeah.
Ms.
If you got a ballpark price to do a monument,
You know, we have, what, 72 entrances, and New Year, I'm just presenting fresh ideas, because I'm never meeting again. But I do like to keep up with trends, and we should, we are agents, community, all other communities like Royal House do the same thing. All of them. So we have to always bear that in mind. Tampa Palms, that was the only other that has a red brick. I don't know, to answer your question, I just know it would be the most cost effective rather than stucco or something like that. It's a very lightweight whitewash, it's kind of like watered down, you can do a light gray, and it still shows the beauty of the brick. We want to keep that, of course, but it shows it more like a Chicago kind of brick that's more aged, more plastic, more, that's what we want, rather than that bright red that it's doing with a black background and gold bright lettering. I'm sorry, it's just aged, it really is.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. John, you want to go next?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think it would be a collaboration, right? I mean, the monuments are owned by us. We can design it however we chose to. We don't follow any sort of guidelines for that. But in the good spirit, we would never do it one way, right? And I do think that there is that domino effect of, if we did that, so we may want to consider possibly changing some of the design guidelines to coordinate with that, right? And I think that the HOAs that do own their own monuments, you need to decide that as well. You don't want to have one neighborhood across another neighborhood that are different. And then what does that mean for the black background? What does it mean for gold leaf? What does it mean for, I think this, yeah, I'm opposed to, I love these pictures that were presented. It's something that I don't think we can decide. I think the president.
well, I don't think that's something that's changed.
No, I mean,
It's a neutral, it's a neutral.
well, I think rather than.
Thank you.
Awesome. So great to have more neighbors here. This is great. So I did have a couple more line items, but in working with John, I don't really need to bring them up at the meeting because he's already taken care of them, or we're already working on them separately. So I won't take up everyone's time. The first thing is the bond language that was published. A lot of us residents don't understand it. So I know it doesn't affect me because I'm north of the power line, but whenever I read it, and it was published to, I think 2 different places on Facebook, in order to take advantage of historically low interest rates, the Oaks CDD board or supervisors recently refinanced, blah, blah, blah. And it, goes in a lot of detail, but I don't know if I was like south of the power lines, how it affects me. So if there's like a layman's version of that text that can be shared so that, regular residents understand what that means to them, like, are they going to get a percentage back? Do they get any money? Or, what it means? Because this is like very verbose.
The brass tacks of it actually won't come until the budget assessment is determined.
Okay.
So based on what we decide with the budget over the next couple months and lock it in, there's a page here, happen to show it to you. You see it on the other ones as well. But it will show you which bond you're associated to, whether your bond amount goes up or not, whether your owed amount goes up or not, and what your full amount either goes up or not.
Yep.
The verbiage that was posted was really intended no more to say that we refinanced.
Okay.
There's really no additional detail that could be ever provided to the 3,500 individual people
Yep.
that pay different amounts.
It's just that some of the language seemed very positive.
The other short answer is that anybody north of the clubhouse will not be affected. Of the power.
Yeah, I think it's almost inverse. It's everybody south of the power line will see a decrease in the bond. Now, to what level, and whether that means that they'll pay more or less on CP fees are 2 completely different concepts.
Okay.
It's like the equivalent of saying I'm going to refinance the mortgage on my house, right?
Right.
You're probably getting a lower APR. Does it mean that your payment's lower? Well, that depends on all the terms and everything.
Sure.
Right. So, so it was meant to be a generally positive statement of just fact. The actual, what the brass numbers are really determined.
Awesome.
Not determined.
Okay. And then the next thing was the gym data. In the last meeting, I know that there was a vote 3-2. Initially, I presented only 4 votes that were in favor of it. After a month of collecting 135 votes, it was 100 yes, 35 no, so that comes out to approximately 74% versus 26% that are in favor of having a 24-hour gym. Kind of based off of the existing rules that are in place. So if you guys can, take that up again, now I've provided more data from the residents, so hopefully that helps. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sir, did you have any comments you wish to make on this time?
Just observing, but,
Just observing.
Mr. Lloyd, would you like to address the board?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving us an opportunity as residents in this community to voice how we feel about things and at least be, a sounding board for us and all the issues that we experience, especially with the increase of traffic and so forth, with more housing developments that are being built up in our area and speed constantly like a racetrack and up and down the roads. So I really appreciate first and foremost the ability that you guys are the speed bumps and stuff that you guys have approved to be put in place, because they have slowed down some traffic. But I know it's working in progress, but those are definitely working. So the more we have of those available, I'm not sure what the plan is going forward is to put in more, but I would strongly recommend that we consider putting them around by the school. I would like to get out in Mississippi Boulevard, and it's constantly racetrack, up and down that road. And I think having those closer by the school would slow the traffic down, kids, of course, and safety issues. The second thing I'd like to bring up, that I'm not sure how many other residents in the neighborhood have experienced some of the drainage issues I've experienced since I've lived here in the community since 2007. But looking at the slopes from the retention ponds for the back of properties that face or border the retention ponds, there was a couple houses, to include mine, that it's a drastic slope. It's not a gradual slope. It's more of like a 15 to 18% grade straight down. And this is, of course, caused by erosion over the years, but it's something that we probably need to look at around the entire community, to look at the slopes around the retention ponds, so we don't have continued drainage issues like I've experienced in my property.
You find it difficult to mow,
Excuse me, sir?
you do the roads, it's fine, difficult to mow and that. with that.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, even the contracted landscaping company comes, they've got stuff several times trying to go around the back of the properties just to cut the grass on the other side of the pond. So my hired contractors, they have to use push more to go back to the pond because it's too much of the slope and they fall right into the drainage. And I know that we discussed this before with not the board, but with John, and talked about the drainage issues in my property. It was repaired at one time, and it's since I built a pool, it's all that did was move out of the area. I do agree that the part of the AMR that was approved for the pool that I had built included some of the landscaping and drainage to push it out to backside of the pool area. However, that's also affected some of the runoff that's for the drainage issue. So we need to pull out the drainage that leads from the side of the pool to the house. I'm going to rip that up, and then of course up to the board's decision on how we're going to repair for long term. That's the biggest thing I'm looking for long term. Like I said, it's not the first time it's happened on my property line, but it's a continued problem that needs to be addressed. And lastly, and I'll turn the floor back over to you, sir, is the vegetation and the landscaping that runs down by the sidewalk. On this it goes forward near the grass bed, between grass bed and I'm not sure where their subdivision is, right there in front of the school. Since a new contracting company has started in cleaning up the area and mowing the grass, a lot of the vegetation is pretty much died. Even most of the grass in that area is died. I was going to ask, this is suggested to the board, what can we do to increase more vegetation in that area and prevent the rest of pretty much the deterioration of the land, because it's also washing out there. There's a slope on that side of the bank as well. So our recommendation for that to be evaluated, to see what we can do to add more vegetation to prevent the further erosion on that side of the bank as well. Other than that, sir, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Or just to give some context, the resident that was just speaking is the homeowner with the erosion mass that we discussed last meeting, the pipes in the ground, the drainage extensions in the ground. Just to put that full circle direction there.
So I understand we're all in agreement on getting that resolved. Is there some discussion?
Yeah, Tommy's on the phone, but we'll wait till we get into the district engineer, and we'll let Tommy give an update. She might have looked at the property a little bit more. So if she's seeing some issues that, we discussed further, we probably need her to explain better than that. So we'll get to that here shortly, actually.
I want to make a comment just about the speed humps that you mentioned by the school. There was a conscious decision not to put them, at least at this point, by the school, knowing that the Pasco Sheriff's Office patrols that area and it keeps the speed down during key times for schools. So the intent of the speed humps that went in on the north side were to help with the crosswalks, especially because of that segment of road is wide open and doesn't have the medians in it like most of the south side does. When you talk about speed control and mitigation, there's no one sort of bullet, probably all know with any road, but the fact that they wind so much on the south side is actually one of the reasons why it's not straight, because it helps speed. We don't see it on the north side so much. The developers simply didn't do that aspect, right? We pretty much kind of L shape that goes up there and that's it. The medians that are in there also go in for actual speed reasons. Again, they were never put on the north side by the developer. So when the speed tables went in, the idea of that was that those crosswalks would benefit the most from the homes. Whereas Mystic and the south side of it would be going to have that. Now, I'm not saying that we would never put them there, I just want to share with you why they went on the north side only. We don't see them on any of the other major collector roads for the speed humps. But I do agree that they are working. I live in Gull Point, where one is right there. The amount of people that slow down now, they weren't really intended, I don't think, for vehicles to help with that, but I feel much safer coming out of Gull Point on a daily basis. And my kids back to school, and they do feel safer just because traffic does slow down in both of those key areas. So I agree that they're definitely working. So thanks for your feedback on it.
I just have a quick question. John, the area where you was talking about the vegetation, have you seen that?
No, I was actually gonna ask, and I could have done it after the fact, but for clarification, are you talking the center medians, or are you talking behind the sidewalk?
So on the sidewalk side, from the sidewalk to the actual pond, retention pond, that whole area right in, there used to be more vegetation there, but over the time period and, with lawnmowers getting really close to the edge and cutting the grass, pretty much killing the grass in that area, a lot of the vegetation is drying up and there's nothing there to retain any or stop the erosion around that side.
Is that east or west of your house?
It runs, so my facing my house, face the east. So it would be the north side of my house, if you're staying in front of my house, it'd be the north side of my house, from Grasston Place up to where the crosswalk starts on the sidewalk for the kids going to school.
Sir, I saw you joined us. Did you have a comment you want to make to the board at all before we move on to audience comments?
Perhaps a question or a comment. What involvement, or if any, did the CDD have in the proceedings to approve the apartment buildings that they're going to build down by Wells Fargo?
Well, we had no involvement. We had no involvement in that. It's not inside of the CDD district, but we are involved on both S12 and S19 zones.
Mm-hmm.
The ones by Sam's Club and the ones by Clubhouse.
Okay. So you will be defending 7 Oaks in those 2 cases.
Absolutely. We have our district council here as well as a third-party land use external counsel that has been hired and we're hired on both of those points.
It would have been good for me to know before because I started putting together my own per se appeal of that development. Just ran out of time and don't have the money to pursue it. Because you could have to pay attorney's fees, and if you lose, you have to pay attorney's fees as well.
Well, we're not involved in the one over by Wells Fargo.
And just heads up, 248 units probably yield about 627 people, okay, using US Census Bureau statistics. By the same token, you can expect about 450 cars. Note that the design on the site plan for that property shows 215 car parking spaces, and 225 narrow parking spaces for bikes and scooters and that sort of thing. So there's about 230 cars up there really circling the parking spaces a lot. So heads up, it's a problem that will, if built, end up being a District 2 problem for a long time. And unless somehow we manage to get through to the commissioners and or the developer that that's just not enough parking. That's it.
Understood. Thank you.
Right, at this time we'll move into the landscape update, field operations and John.
So you can see on my notes, the palm tree trimming, Jerry. Did you happen to get a date today or not?
They're telling me around 15 to 18 of that following month.
In June? So that's news to me tonight, that we might be pushed a month on the palm tree trimming, because it was scheduled for the 2nd week of May, but I'm just now hearing we might run into the second.
Yeah, I just got the date as well. That's what they're telling me right now. It could possibly change because they're trying to figure out the date as well. So I'm trying to make sure and find out. But as soon as I get something solid, I'll pass it along.
Okay, so it may run into June, the palm tree trimming, but it's coming as it does every year. The only other question I had in landscape is that if the RFP is being worked on.
It is being worked on. I was again waiting to tell the legislative session to expire that way. There need to be any changes before then. We incorporate that before it goes out. So now that the session is over, we can proceed. There are these potential changes that would impact the RFP process that work on.
John, can you show your report?
No, but, oh, okay. Well, this has to do with the, go ahead and finish your.
Okay. So the crosswalk project is complete. It's completely done, finally over. Everything, we got a lot of good feedback from a lot of people on it.
Yep.
We hear it all the time, we're out on the street. So I think it definitely is beneficial.
I've heard a lot of positivity about it. I've heard, people want even more. So maybe that's something we can look at in the future. I know some people weren't happy with the table. And maybe it's a good time just to clarify for everyone that the table was specifically chosen over humps or bumps. Because there are speed bumps, speed humps, and speed tables. The district specifically chose the speed table. It's not intended to bring traffic to a stop. It's simply meant to be something for higher speeds.
Yeah, and we're hearing that they wish the speed table was much more elastic. Which it cannot be by code. It only gets 3.5 inches of height, that's all she gets. So if you want the maximum height.
I mean, I have a lifted Jeep with 37s, and I still slow down. I guess I probably could make a game if I wanted to. I'm a responsible adult, but I still slow down at those to go a little bit, a couple 25, 30 miles an hour. 30 is the speed. So
I just have a question about the table. So since they seem to be going very well in the areas that they're in, have we looked at other areas of AOD?
We've touched on it. We haven't decided. as Josh just mentioned a minute ago, it's not against possibly putting more in the community, just haven't really been focused on yet. That's
When the crosswalk project went in, the initial idea that I proposed was the crosswalks with speed tables each one. The table slowly got removed as the budget process kind of proceeded, so that we didn't, exceed the budget for the project, which was one driver. And the second driver was, we just really weren't sure about that in general, right? Would they be too excessive, maybe not be enough, it's a waste, those types of things. And so that's why it ended up coming down. Okay, if we're gonna put two in, we're strategically, can we flip them to the north side, which is clear because, we did that earlier. If your question is, should we put in more, budget season is right now, and the perfect time to allocate funds for it. I don't think this will traffic down, my concern over the years has always been emergency vehicles, because that's been the feedback from the sheriff's office and EMS has always been, please don't put them in, that hinders our access. You don't want an ambulance having to slow down every 100 feet to try to get to an emergency situation. But I do think there's a balance with that, right? And that they can't speed anyway, so as long as they can comfortably go over them at 25, 30 miles an hour. Okay.
And the only reason why I say that is I'm in Springwood, and so as you come around that clock tower, you have a nice stretch of road where, I've seen 40, 50 miles an hour.
I'm surprised there haven't been more T-bones there at Amberside.
Correct. So I'm just thinking, hey, it's working, why not let's experiment?
How much were they weren't that much.
The table was the least expensive of the equation.
Was it 8,000? Most of that was all in because of the
Yes.
traffic personnel, right? So the more we did at one time, it's kind of a bulk price type of concept.
Give or take 2,000 apiece.
Yeah.
I mean, I would.
They're not overly expensive at all.
Yeah, at some point in time, I would love to maybe look at that. Again.
If you want to at least earmark money, now's the time before we.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so
Let's do that.
So when we get to the budget tab, we should look at
Okay, perfect.
Okay, the only other
that.
small,
If not, you're gonna go 2 years.
we are in the process of replacing all of the signs that are from the clubhouse south. Every street directional sign. These are just samples, just to give you an idea. We're getting rid of the flat signage that's dirty and old and does not have the reflective properties. And the new signage has the prismatic reflection, and of course, they'll be brand new and shiny. But every single sign that exists south of the clubhouse is getting replaced.
Collector roads, village roads.
Collector roads only, not inside the villages.
Okay.
Yeah, just the main collector roads. That was all part of last year's budget, so it's just finally now coming to fruition. The other end of that discussion is I'm working, if I can pull it off budget-wise, to have all of the posts repainted. Just like they did the streetlights, when they brought them back to life visually when they repainted them. It's the same exact paint, same exact process, but we can paint the posts too, so they look brand new again. That's money, I'm working on that. We'll see, but it'd be nice to pull that off, because now I got a brand new sign, but I got a figured out post. So one thing leads to another.
So John, with that, then, so inside the villages, are you not replacing signs because they don't need it, or is it strictly a budget item?
Strictly a budget item. Last budget, we replaced all of the street blades. Every single street blade south of the clubhouse was replaced. So the names of the streets were all replaced.
And the reason I ask is because I know what triggered this, I had it 3 or 4 years ago, it was the whole traffic enforcement jurisdiction agreement that we wanted to get modified with the county.
Yes.
And they had no problem with keeping it in place as is, but modifications they wouldn't allow unless the entire neighborhood met the sign code.
Yes.
And unfortunately, especially on the south side, the stop signs had sunk at 2 inches below code in some areas, like for minor things, and they were not willing to grant any sort of waiver or force on that. So, but that did include inside the building.
It did include inside the building.
So do you have an idea of what we would need? And it doesn't have to be a one-time budget, right? We can do this in 2 or 3 years at a time.
No, I don't. The only part of that equation is that the current signage also had to be lifted to proper code.
Correct.
Not just the actual signage.
Correct.
So the answer is no. I don't have any number in my head where that might stand.
As I remember that discussion, every time we came back to the county for a clarification of what they were looking for, it changed.
Yeah.
And so if we zeroed in on something, oh, we're not doing that anymore, we're doing this standard. And we just, you revise the cost and it was doubling the amount. So we decided we weren't going to do any of it until they settled on a standard that we could bank on and budget for. It was a cat chasing its tail.
So we have 55,000 a year allocated for street sign repair and replacement, and I thought at least a good chunk of that was to, over a multi-year period, have all of the signage replaced. So you don't think that's sufficient at all for that? That's why I'm wondering from the budget perspective, or is, if we decided and said, hey, if we wanted to, 2 years from now, have all signs in the neighborhood met to county code, including the height issues on the older ones that sunk,
Would $100,000 cover it?
would 110 grand cover
I think it'd be very tight.
it?
Your south end, most of your posts are.
Yeah, you're including possibly the
Right,
posts, right?
so do we piecemeal the post and add a section, like we talked about in the crosswalk rule?
Yeah.
Or do we take the post out and replace the post with, nice single?
Did they have footers on?
They do. Well, they're breakaway, everything's breakaway. So there's no concrete in the ground, but it's set either old style set inside PVC height, and the aluminum pole will break away. The new ones today, like the crosswalk signs, there's a metal receiver that's pounded into the ground.
Frame.
Yep, the pole goes in and a wedge holds it in place. Vehicle hits it, pole breaks on the wedge, the frame's still in place, you simply put a new pole in.
Well, I can understand that, but my question was, is it a sinking base or is it, so we don't have the problem 10 years from now, the post is sunken?
No, I don't think we'll have too
No,
much.
it's just the ground that's settled, and
Yeah.
the pole, I don't know the exact measurements, so let's say that sign, bottom of the sign had to be 6 feet up. It's only an 8-foot pole, and so there's no room to move the sign up anymore. So now we gotta go buy a 9-foot pole and move the sign up. It's just,
Yeah, a lot of your current poles don't give you the opportunity to raise the signage to proper code. They're too short.
rather height. Which Johnny kind of alluded to just now. There were some signs, some poles, and we actually opted to go larger than normal because we were right around that height. Yep. John, the foresight to make sure that we don't find ourselves with some of the new signs with a limited height of pole.
So my question was, if they were properly footed like you do with other things, with concrete, would that not stop it from continuing?
I don't really think you have a sinking issue. Once that pole is placed and it's at 7 foot minimum, I find it very hard to believe the county's ever gonna come back 4 years from now and put tape measures on there and see if it's sunk. It's just not gonna be realistic. I don't really think we have a sinking issue that we need to address. But
Well,
if we want to.
they did, or somebody did at one point, right? Against Spencer, we had a map.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't really involved in that,
No.
so I'm not really.
That's what I meant to do. But we did have a map, it's not, Bob had a map.
Bill does it too, sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's covered, but Bob had a map of all the signs
Yes.
that really
It's
were.
literally this.
Yeah, in this house. So, anyway, do you think, I mean, you probably can't have it tonight, and maybe you can, I don't know, can you do some paper napkin math to try to see
Yeah,
what?
That's what I was gonna ask you. Do you want me to reopen this to see what it's gonna take to bring everything to code?
I mean, I think so, so just to highlight for the rest of the board, probably doesn't know this topic at all. We do have some roads that are not covered under the traffic enforcement jurisdiction agreement with the county, which means the sheriff will not enforce traffic on those roads. There's only like 2 or 3, it's not a major list, but it is one that just, we want confidently to say sheriff can enforce traffic on all our roads. Because of that variance, they've used it a couple times where they go, oh, our deputy didn't know. They didn't know if that was one that was on the.
But that's kind of a de jure factor thing. I don't think the actual policeman ought to say, oh, should I write it? Because I'm on this street.
This is where we got into the crazy semantics, and the frustration with the county was that they kept going to come back and the shortest version is, if we want to make sure that all of our roads are encompassed under that, we do have to do the entire neighborhood and make sure they're up county code and sign off on that. So in my opinion, if it's gonna cost $100,000 a year to knock the project out, to make sure that our traffic enforcement jurisdiction agreement and the sheriff has full capability to do everything that they need to hire, seems like some work we can do.
Okay, so I'll reopen that on my world, I'll
Okay.
figure it out, so I can bring some numbers to the board.
So maybe for tonight, Taylor, go make a note, we might wanna temporarily inflate that since we come up with max section, right? Yeah, so let's inflate it. I don't know what it is yet, but when we get to that, let's make sure we don't miss that. We can always trim it back down at the actual budget meeting. Let's not handcuff ourselves.
Okay, the only other small item, this has already been discussed, but the additional 30-mile-per-hour speed signs for the north have been ordered, so we're just waiting for them to show up and be installed. So they are coming.
General ETA, month or so?
Yeah, that's probably about 3 to 4 weeks out, so 3 to 4 weeks, yeah. It typically takes them 2 to 4 weeks for production before they physically get here. So. In Stone Creek Park, this has been discussed versus gaining proposals. Some of the proposals are coming in very favorable, actually, so finally we probably can address Stone Creek Park and the flooding issue that they have there. So I still have some other contractors I'm waiting on, but I will have some answers on that, probably by next meeting.
Good. That's been a very long-standing
Yes.
issue.
The only other thing that's not on my list is there was a request in the past for additional benches on each of those boulevard. I know there was some, we don't want to load each of those boulevard with dog poop stations, multiple benches, things of that nature. But I did map out 4 new benches on the north side of the property, because there are 0 on the north side of the property. So I did map out an area where I could put 4 benches total on the north end, that don't really add any ISO whatsoever, because they're nice, under nice shaded areas. Just like the others, they'll be behind the sidewalk. But it will add 4 benches to the north, where we have 0 right now. I just want to know if the board has an issue with that, or if they're okay with me doing that. It works within my current budget. It's not a big deal, financially speaking.
Just because are they near like the ponds and stuff?
Yes.
Like they are.
Well, no, actually, the 4 are not near ponds, these new, they're just behind the sidewalks under some shady trees. None of them are standing in front of ponds, sitting in front of ponds or looking over ponds. The 4 locations. I mean, I can share them with you if you want me to email them to you, but they're just simple shaded areas that are flat, open enough for me to put a bench there.
I think go for it. I like the benches out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very long stretch to not have any benches out there, and I think people enjoy them on the south side, right? So,
Okay, so we're okay with that?
As long as, and I'll put this more back on you, as long as you feel like we're not doing exactly what you described, what we've already said we don't want to do, which is clutter the view of, what's going on.
Yeah, that's why I took time to map out these 4 spots. I don't know how I mentioned it, something with the dog things, that's.
Well, the dog things are
that's a
still
whole nother
fine.
thing. The only other request is the Village of Edenfield has requested a 3rd bench in their park. They have 2. I guess they say they gather there a lot, and there's never enough seating area for them. I have the budget to get them a bench very easily. Is there any objection for me adding a bench in the Village of Edenfield in their park?
And that's everyone in Edenfield. The villages of Edenfield want this. They've always been congregating there. It's standing room only now. This is a big request for them.
Where does it end?
At 5 benches.
Good sweet.
We laughed, and it will come up. It will.
Okay, one more small item. We've already talked about this, the cul-de-sacs in Pinecrest and Forest Edge being reduced in size, so the trucks don't destroy them. Residents, working with John, are sort of pushing to physically eliminate the islands completely. The trees, the grass, everything, instead of reducing them, just taking them out and making it all pavement. I've already checked with Tanya, it's a non-issue to do that, if that's what we choose to do. But I just want to share with the board if there's anything in your thought pattern that you would not prefer to have the islands completely eliminated and just an open cul-de-sac.
I guess my question is, what would it look
paving.
Should be a giant cul-de-sac.
Yeah, just gonna be a giant blacktop circle.
I have some friends that live in the neighborhood and around there. They have a fairly large cul-de-sac. They have an island in the middle of it, and it turns into a parking lot. It turns into extra parking spaces, and that would be the only thing that I definitely would not want to see. And that would be my number one thing. I don't have any
That's
problem
at
with
the
that.
end. Yours is at the end, isn't it? 12 at the end.
No, it's not even in my neighborhood.
Oh,
I don't know the roundabout specifically that's being talked about, so I'm not saying that would be a problem. But if it is large enough that now all of a sudden we're gonna have 2 or 3 cars, people have extra parking there, they will make parking spots right in the middle of it, see it done in the neighborhood.
Well, just a reminder, a few meetings back, the board approved the funds
Yeah.
to reduce the island size
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So that's every single.
But reducing islands doesn't create parking spaces.
Yeah, correct. So
But
we
eliminating islands could create parking spaces.
and just to touch on that, by eliminating the islands, I'm sure financially speaking, it's less money
Sure.
than reducing them, but the board's already approved the reduction.
Yeah.
So those funds are already approved, ready to go, we just haven't pulled the trigger yet, we're still talking about it. But does the board have a flat out objection?
Well, I'm just thinking about the aesthetics, if you put it down to like a 6-foot island, maybe one good tree or one roll leaning or something like that.
So the current palm trees that exist are not gonna move. The curbing's just gonna shrink around them, and the grass line's gonna shrink around them.
So that was, you still have something.
Yes, the current palm trees that are standing there are still gonna be there.
All right, that's a reduction, sorry, it's good for nothing.
Of course, if we
But you're saying the request is to remove all of it completely.
take everything out.
Whose request was that?
Well, John can probably help me with this, but I guess a lot of residents have been talking about it.
Yes, sir.
In those villages.
So out of the people that have responded so far, nobody has responded back negatively to removing the whole thing. They have all said that this has been a request for a long time. They've sent emails to various places, that it's a safety hazard the way it is right now. I think that's why it was approved to be shrunk. But at the same time, they see that there's no irrigation there. There is limited grass there. Right now, they just throw mulch on top, and then the grass just grows up underneath it. The palm trees never look like they're really, hey, I'm happy to be here, palm trees. It's more like, thanks for putting me here, guys. So everyone's pretty much not.
What are these 2 roads again?
Well, it's the entire village of Pinecrest and Forest Edge, every single cul-de-sac within those 2 villages.
So
I think there's 6 total.
that's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's 6 cul-de-sacs total.
And the only cul-de-sac that I'm talking specifically to is the one in Forest Edge. I haven't reached out to all the neighbors in these other areas.
Well, there's another angle. Do we want to reduce some and completely remove others?
No, because then you're gonna have people,
Well, we don't want to do a choice.
That's my concern too, because even in Mill Point, I'm there too. The neighbors don't like the grass, they don't like anything but grass there. So if they could get rid of the palm trees, they would, so the kids can play in it. It doesn't hide snakes and bushes and stuff.
Right.
But then, so if we do it for this community for 6, are we gonna flatten every cul-de-sac? throughout the entire-
I have a problem with flattening everyone. That distorts the aesthetics or something.
I can't say that I'm sold on the idea of removing it.
If it's all of the residents, would we have say on
We
it?
still need to consider the, not that it's always the golden fact, right? We do have to consider, the general aesthetic and how the design of the neighborhood kind of goes into the whitewashing discussion, right? I might think it looks great, but,
Yep.
in neighborhoods that the houses are right next to them, I think it looks great, but if it doesn't look like it fits in with 7 Oaks or doesn't meet, the design or causes other issues, then I think that's something we have to really think about. So just because everybody wants it, obviously it's heavily overweight, there's no doubt about that. But the initial request was to reduce the safety issues not for the residents' vehicles, but for these commercial vehicles that are having problems. And the aesthetics of being driven over, and then also the repair costs for us. Right? Shrinking the islands meet all 3 of those requirements and still allows some green space there. Shrinking it completely out eliminates the green space, changes it much more dramatically, and to me opens up possibly more issues to deal with. So that's where
Some of the residents' concerns were if you shrink it down, it may not be enough and you still wind up with the dump truck that, because somebody has a car there, now it needs to back up all the way. And that's where the residents were claiming a safety issue, because now you have large vehicles that in order to get out, they're backing up the entire length of the drive, the street.
Well, we shouldn't be, because the dump truck's there for 7 minutes while they go through a whole neighborhood, so it's not like dump trucks are parked on people's houses.
No, what I'm saying is the dump truck can't do the turnaround if a car is blocking them. So right now they're claiming that, cars or moving vehicles end up having to back up all the way down the street. And anytime you're backing up, it's a safety issue.
You're saying a parked car is blocking? You're saying a parked car is blocking them?
If a car is parked anywhere on that street.
It shouldn't be parked there.
Hey, I hear you there. I'm talking about reality.
I thought you were trying to say cars that are driving down the road now can't fit with a dump truck down the road as well.
No. This has to do with if somebody is parked there even momentarily, like somebody gets out to go deliver
their own
food.
safety issue and that they should do that. That's our responsibility. So, I don't know if we got to go which route.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what the board member that wants to have John get proposals to make a motion for that.
If it's meeting all the requirements and you don't see it, except for the residents' request to make it larger concrete like that, and there's the opportunity for it to turn into additional parking spaces that they're already using that they shouldn't, I'm completely against it.
I agree.
Knowing that people are parking there now just shows me that they're gonna park more.
Yeah, but
It was
it's
a
also,
temporary.
what if somebody's doing work and, or visiting, they're not parking in this person's driveway, so you don't get your car picked up till 10, 11 o'clock. I'm not for or against that, I'm not sure, which I am.
Dump trucks usually come through by 10 a.m.
And then the dump truck can't get around, or the garbage truck can't get around.
It's true for the other cul-de-sacs we have in all of our neighborhoods, right? So it's not unique to the sites we're talking about.
No,
I think we could go round and round with all the what if possibilities. I think that, not even the 80-20 rule, I think we're probably talking the 95-5 rule here, is that as long as the cul-de-sac has enough clearance for these commercial vehicles, we shouldn't have a problem when it doesn't park on the street. The fact of opening it up just because aesthetically they don't want a trailer anymore, I just see that car look at it again.
I don't know if we actually should, but what's the final diameter of the center under the current?
I forget exactly, Jack, because some of them are restricted by sanitary access that are within the islands, so I can't go any farther beyond that. But it was about, on average, about 5 foot they're shrinking in, 5, 6 foot coming in.
That's a lot of space.
No, it almost doubles the roadway that's there now. So
Now they can park more cars there.
Well, no, and don't confuse this. I'm not saying residents are parking there. What I'm saying is, like, whenever you get your lawn service, there's a big truck that sits there for a good 40 minutes, maybe even an hour and a half, while it's doing multiple people's stuff. If it's parked there, that dump truck can get in and then it can back up. It can go to the other side and then back up, but it cannot do the revolution. So whenever you have people that are delivering food, or mobile grooming salons, or any type of business that stops and sits there for 15, 20 minutes, I'm not putting it on the residents. They're not parking
What
there.
times does the dump truck usually go through there?
But I'm using the dump truck as an example. It could be a moving truck. It could be any large vehicle.
John, you're making an argument here.
Yep,
Every
sorry.
road in 7 Oaks is still the same width.
Yep.
Every road in 7 Oaks can only fit 1 and 1/4 car on each side with the parked car there.
I'm just talking about these cul-de-sac, that's all.
But I'm saying, as long as we make sure that the cul-de-sacs also follow that, which sounds like these 6 cul-de-sacs didn't, for what the developers' reasons are, we can't make sure that the roads are too wide to fit multiple commercial vehicles.
I got you.
If we have commercial vehicles that are parking there for an hour and causing a traffic issue, then I would encourage somebody to contact Taylor with the vendor's information. We'll be happy to address that with them.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be legal enforcement, but we can have that conversation if they're causing traffic problems on roads. So we're doing it. There's ways to solve this without saying make it a concrete parking spot.
Gotcha. I apologize for the interruption. I just want to make sure that I advocate for the residents that we're needing.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'm clear, we're simply reducing the size of the house.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, quick question for you. My neighbor was gonna come tonight to raise this issue because she seems to be the most concerned about it. We live in Amberside, and behind our homes is Ancient Oaks. Yeah, between our home and Ancient Oaks is the berm with the viburnum on it. The first 3 or 4 years, they would top those viburnum, keep them around 10, 12 feet at the most. Aesthetically, and then somewhere along the line, the decision was made, I don't think it was at a board meeting, because I was been on the board forever, that they let, Vivicon just let the viburnums continue to grow. And so they're getting up 20, 25 feet tall. And what happens is, the foliage that was being forced to sprout at the bottom has disappeared. So I can sit in my family room and look out at the traffic on Ancient Oaks, and people can see into the homes. They were there to be a screen, but they're not effectively a screen any longer. And she asked, why aren't we enforcing the topping of those to force undergrowth so that it becomes a barrier that it was made? I know Dick Finkus mentioned the same thing on his property in Willowstone.
Yes.
Can
Can I just, thank you. I just want to say thank you, because I totally agree. I too am in Willowstone, and it's like, we have kind of scant planting outside of the part of Willowstone where I am, as you head more towards the school. And it's like, you can see people going by. It's a lack of privacy, security, as well as traffic noise, which has definitely, it's an issue. And I'm just wondering, the hedges seem to be very kind of new. Are those going to be allowed to grow up to be like the others that are more further up?
Where are you talking?
Outside of
Immediately, you're
Willowstone.
talking behind the sidewalk.
Let's hold on one second, because I want to make sure we're not going off topics here, right? I think it's still a quick question, just what Jack's saying here, though. Because my house also backs up to AOB, right? And so I had actually I have a corner lot, so I had kind of dual issues. Well, I have a 4-foot fence, not a privacy fence.
But I mean, that does.
So you can see right through the privacy fence and through the thing, right? I like the height personally. I do see what you're saying from a health though perspective, and it definitely does make the lower ends not as healthy. Because on my lot, the right side is actually my viburnum, and the one that's on AOB is the CDD's viburnum. I do keep mine trimmed at about 15 feet up, and the thickness is nice and thick on the bottom. In the back, what I've done personally is just added my own bushes in front of it, so that really I have 2 layers, because that's the way I solved it. Now, I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm not saying everybody else has to do that. I do remember that some time ago, we've had many residents come in saying, my berm's not high enough, or my berm doesn't, filter enough from the road. And historically, our position has always been that the berm is not designed to, for that purpose, right? We've held off on putting funds in there. That's the only 2 things I want to say. I'm not saying I'm for or against trimming the height. I just want to make sure there's color put in that. We've always told people that, our berm is an aesthetic thing, not necessarily functional to block their homes too.
So I think, Jack, to answer your question, my question would be, because I know, thinking back, I've been around a long time too. I can't remember the last time they were ever topped. So if we're gonna top them out, is it within the landscape contract already to physically do that? Or is this gonna be a line item or a one-time line item? Because it's at the point now where it's gonna require a lift and things of that nature. You can't stand there and cut them. So if we wanna take that approach, are we gonna look for a new proposal to actually bring it down, whatever height we choose? Or are we gonna decide and consider, is it already within our landscape contract and it should just be done?
My question is, since they've grown so high, if we do top them, are we gonna give that coverage at the bottom?
Well, that's a question I have. Will they sprout out?
Well, I think if you top them and keep them topped, and you stay on that course, they will fill.
The house.
Yeah.
I've experienced mine do that same thing.
Well, the fact that she's a widow and she feels more exposed, but I agree that I don't like just being so thinned out now, especially in the winter months. It just, you might as well not have
So is it cheaper to put wood in the project instead of?
You can't put a privacy fence.
No, put wood or something in front of it, behind it. It sounds like it might get expensive if the wood is involved.
Well, a resident always has the option within their property line to create whatever type of barrier they choose to. The CDD, and I just had to answer this to another homeowner who made a statement kind of in regards to the sense of security, that the CDD doesn't offer any security whatsoever to the homeowners. The landscaping offers zero security to the homeowners. I had to make that, she was very adamant that she was not secure, and I just had to make it clear to her that we offer no security by landscaping. Homeowners are allowed, of course, on their own property, if they want to fill it up, to go ahead. But to possibly plant additional row of bushes, it's not cash. And even if we have the ability.
The problem is they've gotten out so that they're not as high, but they're branching out.
They're starting to hang.
They're hanging 3 to 4 feet in over the property line. If you go up and trim them, it looks like the telephone company goes down the highway. You don't want that look either. But if you put stuff underneath them, they might not grow the way you want them because they're shaded by, like verticalized.
No, my question wasn't that. If I wanted to just readdress, sorry for interrupting. My question is outside of where I am on Willerstone, the hedges are this size. And then you go further down, they're kind of like this size. I'm asking, will they be allowed to be all uniform and allowed to grow up? Or, I've seen them kind of like cut them and keep them down here. I'm like, why don't they just let them?
Yeah, I'll have to get
That's the
clarification on
question.
where you're talking, because the only hedge line that grows high is the viburnum line. That's on the berm.
Okay.
They do keep the other hedge lines low.
They do keep those low.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are plenty of spaces where the berm doesn't go high, all you can see straight through. So it was never a design to make sure that there's a barrier from visibility perspective.
I'd be happy to look at it if you can, kind of pinpoint where it is though, because maybe that particular area has an issue, I don't know yet.
Or
So do you have
maybe it's
do you have a
scanned.
motion or direction or something like
No,
that?
that's fine. Just kind of question, you don't go back as far as I do on that discussion, but I know that we were topping initially and why the decision to stop them at some point. I don't know that it was necessarily costly, although it could have been.
Well, I know if you want to top them out, it's going to require a machine for sure. So is that going, the board, is it going to take a position that that's in our contract now? And whatever it costs the contractor, so be it, or is it a point where the contractor is going to supplement the cost of it?
And I'm looking at the contract specs right now, we do have it in there, it's, section, part 1, subsection 3, talk about tree and shrub care. It specifically says that, on an as-needed basis, the trees shall be pruned over sidewalks, nature trails, parking lots, driveways, and roadways, so it's not going to interfere with pedestrians, cars, or other vehicles. And it specifically includes at all times a minimum of 10 to 15 feet, but it varies according to DOT specs, of clearance under the limbs. So again, that's different from, I think, the topic, but
Right.
we're talking about that's the clearance.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
just from the street.
Yeah, that's your 14 feet in the street, 10 feet on the sidewalk. That's,
I think it's a healthy request to go back and, if you're okay with this, I'm not doing it, but I think we should go back to them and say, we have feedback and evidence where the viburnum does not appear to be as healthy as we think it should be on the lower, and we don't know if it's a result of the fact that it's up so high, right? And position it that way and see what the recommendation is, see where they can go from that. Okay. Because in essence, that's what we're trying to solve, right? We're not necessarily trying to say we want it to be lower. We're just trying to say we want the lower to be thicker. So maybe we go back to the contract, they're the arborists and experts, right?
Oh, Jerry, would that be you all?
Yes, sir, I'll go ahead and reach out to Jason and see what we can do in terms of him coming out and taking a look. And if it's something that's simple as getting the chemical mix together and things like that, I'll make sure to pass it along to John and share it with you guys. As of right now, I have to take a look at it. I know there's a few spots, like you said, once it starts getting that tall shade and pushing the nutrients towards the top with the bloom and everything like that, it gets more difficult for it to stay full at the bottom, so.
Well, I can tell you, if you want to look at Amberside from the entrance of Amberside going south on the east side there. So-
To Florida, I got 2 spots to go check, and I will check that one as well.
I would say we're not gonna have an answer for this today, so
Right.
direct John a call.
And I know the problem can't be corrected, you're not gonna correct this problem overnight, it's gonna be a several year thing to correct it, but if it's not addressed at some time, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse.
So I'm gonna take a look at it, because if it's thin enough, and I'm not guaranteeing anything here, but there's a possibility of also planting smaller, viburnums within it, where it can fill out the volume, so it'll give that illusion, and it'll fill out, and it'll also, look a lot nicer, but it's not something I can guarantee right now. I could go and take a look at it. There's no room for it, it'll just die, there's no point.
Okay, just real quick, Vivek, I think that should be a new RFP, make sure there's something, if you don't find it in there already, or something that addresses that for the future.
Okay, yeah, I didn't find a copy anywhere, so if you want to do that, we'll certainly do that.
I don't know if I'm still sold on the top end. I just want to make sure that we have a thick hedge, right? I mean,
Right.
Where it needs to be healthy, I want it to be healthy.
You see some of these in West Palm Beach, they're like 40 feet tall, and they're a wall.
Yeah.
You know,
I get personal preference here.
Yeah.
I go in my backyard and, I love the height. And if that were cut down, I think I would actually have a problem with that. So again, I don't know if I'm sold on that necessarily, but I do agree that I think the thickness down below should be the thickness of. And if that means lowering it, well then.
well, that's the question, is have they not been treated properly that they're down?
Yeah. I just don't want to jump to the top and just,
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, just go back real quick to the Stone Creek Park. Oh,
Yes.
What is included in that? Like, are you just grading? Is that all?
No, the plan is to regrade, redirect the water out of the park so we can keep it dry, and then resod it.
Okay.
So I've had 3 contractors show up so far, waiting on proposals. I have 1 proposal. I called 7 contractors, only 3 showed. I'm still waiting on 2 other proposals, because I only have 1 of the 3 so far.
So
The plan is to regrade that wet area.
Yeah.
So the water sheds,
Okay.
and then we'll resod it.
But not doing anything else, no basketball court, nothing like that.
Strictly addressing the standing water.
Is there a budget for that already that you guys have in mind?
For,
Just the regrading?
yes. Yeah, the board actually has already approved this project.
Yeah.
if you're interested in specifics, maybe you and John can handle this stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to take.
Happy to give you all the data that you need to.
You need to revert back to this being a full conversation, on these comments. Teresa, you're an answer, can you go to the clubhouse update?
Everything
Okay,
went great, John, thank you.
so I did get some feedback from Greg Henry and, the renovation of the movie theater, so he didn't agree with the board's decision, however, he's moving forward and he awarded the project.
So we agree.
Well, in the email says he didn't hear anybody, and he verbally agreed that that's what he did. So, the carpet's on order, and, I believe that we shouldn't put the seam in the middle, Jack, right? So basically, we just want to turn the carpet the other way, so.
I don't, everybody talks that way, but if you're in a ballroom, you'd have to have several seams. The point is, if you're good at your job, you put a seam in there. This idea that adversely not put a seam, given the fact that it's only used sporadically, and I would rather have a carpet run from front to back with design that way. Two legs.
All right, can we have a board approval, if that's what they want to do?
Well, what does that cause for the vendor?
Doesn't cause anything to the vendor, he just, it's,
The
it's
same.
his mistake to begin with, the way he laid the carpet, and,
They're laying like 5-foot strips, 6-foot strips. Like this, and I'm saying they lay 10-foot strips going up.
If you all want to take a quick peek at it, before you make a decision.
The only seam you would see is on the first level there. You should see it, but that's where the most traffic would be. On the risers, it's only where the seam is going to be between the seat and the other seat.
You're not gonna see that.
Well, you're not going to see it, yeah. But the idea is,
He didn't match the
the idea is
seam
we don't
very
want to
well.
you're not putting a seam right in a doorway where it gets, walked down 24 hours a day.
I think he's trying to not set himself up for failure.
Well,
he didn't match mine very well last time. So if he has a step to do that with, I think he's more confident.
He's using the horizontal brakes instead of trying to force.
Yeah.
More.
I agree. Aesthetically, I would prefer exactly how you're saying it.
We are the customer. That's the way I thought it was gonna be put in. They just took it on themselves to lay it horizontally and then to lay it upside down. Keep coming in from this way.
So Jack, make the motion.
We're gonna do it the right way, front to back.
I'll say.
All right.
All in favor?
It may take a few more rounds of car.
How long tomorrow?
Yeah, you may have to remix it, because if he's cutting, the way you're laying it out.
You got it there.
All right, okay, so Teresa got that.
Okay,
I would suggest you get somebody that knows how to put seats together.
I would suggest him to subcontract out a more professional vendor installation.
Just for the sake of seeing the first.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we were able to open up the lap pool, yay for that. Chris did have a break in one of the pipes that, busted up the irrigation out there, which John and his team were able to semi-repair for now.
No, it's repaired. Yeah, there was he broke 1 inch line and 1.5 inch line. We didn't even know. We discovered it on the irrigation line. But it's been repaired, put back together.
So we're trying to figure out why there's still water.
There's water still under the backpacks. We don't know if there's another irrigation break that may have not been discovered. So today, all the irrigation was shut off back here in the backside. We're gonna let it dry out. If it doesn't dry out, we know it's not irrigation because the irrigation's shut off. If it does dry out, it may be irrigation related, but we can't get into it right now because it's wet. So we just gotta let the drying happen and we'll figure it out. Okay.
When do they turn it off?
Turn what off? Today. It was just shut down today. It did run last night.
It's not the first irrigation pipe that's been broken.
No.
Won't be the last one.
Well, my question now is, since he put dirt in there, does he have to reverse that? If,
No, we don't know yet. There's no
There's a
answer on
possibility.
what direction it's gonna be taken or what has to be done until we determine.
We're just gonna roll the punches on what to do with the
so
irrigation.
there is a possibility that the lap pool could be closed again?
If his piping is closed and working just fine, there should be no reason to close it. If it's an irrigation line, it's not gonna affect your lap pool.
The irrigation line and John's team just has to work around then.
If he has a breach of some kind in his piping, that may be a different.
We might have to rerun the zone or something of that nature.
All right.
But this will definitely give you the data on whether it's his pipe versus out there.
So, tomorrow he'll be out here again, he's gonna finish up some electrical, taping out there, and he's gonna start prepping the area for the fencing and remove his debris and trash. So,
The lid's been repaired yet?
no, none of the lids and nothing has been repaired
Well, my kids check until it gets done.
Correct.
Right.
So we had leak detection done on all the pools. We had some minor leaks, could have been over the years, no one really knows, but we'll find out how that affects the water bill next month. But those were all repaired and had nothing to do with Phoenix pools, so. Ladies' restroom renovations, they're going a lot quicker than the old contractor did. However, the toilets that were just ordered are the wrong toilets, so I'm gonna be speaking to him tomorrow about that. And we ordered comfort height. So he's probably gonna try to make me stick with the same toilets that were all delivered, but I'm not. I'm just telling him he needs to reorder comfort height. So that's a little delay, but that shouldn't take long to get. The cafe baseboards, crown molding, everything has been painted. That's complete. We're waiting on the flooring to be installed, contracts are signed, deposits were made, so we're just waiting on the splash park, unfortunately, it is disappointing. So the tiles are popping off the surface again. he had the manufacturer come out and look at the pool. They believe they have to hydroblast the surface and take out all that existing marcite over the years, it's top up twice already. So that looks like that's the way to go right now, and then we'll retile everything. If that does not hold up, we're looking at possibly replacing all the splash rock features.
Well, we've known for years that's kind of taking time on, so it's unfortunate it's happening, but it's.
So we do want to take those steps first. Obviously, we don't want to spend $130,000 versus, a couple of $1,000 first, so.
Yeah. We've been patching it for some time, right?
Is this patching, are they covering that cost, or are we stuck with that redo?
No, he's gonna retile with no charge, but the sandblasting, obviously, and the hydroblasting will be a charge. But he'll retile that area.
Is it because the stuff is not submerged, right? That's why it's drying out?
Well, I don't buy that, Jack, only because we've never had a problem with that area in all the years that I've been here. It's just only when they resurface, we did it. So, yeah, it should be submerged underwater, so if we do redo that area, I would suggest getting rid of that island and making it one flat great circle. But that's how it was built, but those tiles never popped off before we put new tiles on there. So, I don't know if I buy that, but yeah, they should be submerged in the water at all times.
So maybe you can take a look for us before we get into, well, I guess it's the next topic anyway. Yeah. I'd like to see how much work we've been applying to the reserve for the pool. Pretty sure there's an amount we're gonna apply there. Because again, we've known that this is coming up, so we should spend that sooner or later. We'll do it on the fly, but.
Okay.
I know, Jack, I think, I'm not sure if you requested, somebody did request to look at the one outside of the clubhouse. So honestly, he sent me pictures of kind of what it would look like. I didn't submit them, but I think they kind of cheated. It would change the whole design and look of the building. But I'll submit it in the next budget meeting, just so you can see. But they would range from $3,670 all the way to $18,000 change, depending how far you want to go out. So.
Well, I think if you do that, you'd want to go out to the curving. I mean, that's the whole purpose.
Yeah, so you're looking at $18,000 to go all the way out. But I'll show you the pictures. That's just my personal opinion that I didn't. And then I have, I'm having a problem with the current cleaning company that we're using. When COVID hit, I guess we all panicked and, the district was losing money. We weren't having any rentals, clubhouse was closed, so I was trying to do what I could to save costs. So one of the things I did was cut the cleaning company and try to reduce the price, which I did. However, I'm not getting the service that I need. So I tried to call the other company that I terminated to see if it was going to come back, and he's just way too busy now. So I had to go out for bid again with other companies. I got two other proposals. One that was referenced to me by Andy, and I met with him twice actually. His bid came in at $3,100 a month for 7-day cleaning, which is high, but I was able to negotiate that down to $2,500, which is a couple $100. So I'm asking the board if I can.
What was it?
Is that what your budget?
$1,550.
How much was it?
Company we're using now is $1,550.
15.
$1,500.
Well, no, I mean, before you terminated the last one.
I think he was around. I can't remember offhand. I don't even want to guess it, but he was a little bit more than this company.
So how much is that a year?
2,500 times 12.
But you had them 7 days a week before, is that?
Before COVID hit, I had 5 days, and then during the slow season, we had 3 days. So with COVID, right now I have 7 days. And the issue is too, the staff I have, Staff I had in the past were here for years, you know, they went off to college, you know. I'm having a staffing issue, just trying to get things done on a regular basis, and they're not gonna clean the way we need the clubhouse to be clean. So,
Sorry if I'm confused or saying this wrong. Your budget right now is $35,000 for clubhouse janitorial service.
well, that's not just for janitorial, it's cleaning supplies and everything that we do. That's, that includes Cintas, you know, towels, mats, you know, things like that, so.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is when COVID hit, we didn't modify your budget, so you still have the same 35,000.
Yeah, but it's gonna be way over budget.
So how much more do you do?
I think Cintas is 12,000 alone, a year. I have to go back and look what we spent last year on Cintas, but,
So the projected annuals right now are 30, just shy of 28,300. I'm not arguing to give you extra money, I'm just trying to figure out what it is you're actually asking for. How much?
well,
how
it's
much
gonna
you
be
want
a,
the line to be?
it's gonna be probably $1,500 more a month.
More than what?
So, yeah.
Your 35,000 now already is
$1,000.
Well, well, 1,500 is what we're paying now.
And this is
It's 1,000. What were you paying before COVID?
I don't know, I can't remember offhand.
So I'm just saying, I don't want to, you have 35,000, so add Cintas, add this together, and it's really your number, right?
Right.
Add it,
Clean
1,000,
supplies, yeah.
So what does that number come out?
I don't know, I gotta.
Well, you're adding 12
I
grand.
just can't go over the top of my head, because I don't want to get a number and then.
Well, why are we
sell
adding,
myself
why are
short.
we adding 12 grand? What it's saying is she had 35, right?
That was based on
reduced
15, that was based on
1,500.
So,
So,
no, it wasn't. That's what I'm trying to say. The 35,000 was pre-COVID number. So what happened was she reduced the spend, which is great, but her 35,000 number never changed. So if she's getting a new vendor that is now slightly higher, I'm understanding that that's possibly more, you know, more money, but it's not $1,000, not $1,500 more, right? The new company isn't triple the cost.
Right, you're looking at the delta between what was budgeted and what's new, rather than what was reduced from budget.
Right, because the budget was never reduced.
No, you're absolutely right, that's the right way to look at it. Right, so again, I think if the budget was 35, and this is 2,500, times 12, so that's 30,000. That's 30,000 plus the syntax, that's 12,000, so the delta probably 7,000.
Yeah, which makes more sense, that's $600, $700 a month, right?
You keep saying other things, supplies and stuff, is there?
But we buy all our cleaning supplies, garbage bags, all that sort, you know, all that stuff is included in that line.
So how much more?
So, you know, we're only a couple of months in from budget, so we have what, how many more, we have like 6 months, what, 5 months more to go until the end of budget season. It's hard to say right now.
Yeah, so there's a reality that you'll come in under for this year because you've cut significantly so much, right, which is fine. So then for next year, we need to raise you up to 42 and 35.
I think at least, because that doesn't include the cleaning supplies, but for example, right?
Yeah.
that's only the cleaning.
You know, so that's
the 45,000.
Well, I'll give you a budget number at the next meeting. I won't be here, but I will.
We have to have something today because today is where we set the high water.
Right, but you're saying right now we have enough to cover us.
No. I'm saying two different things. I'm saying your current budget, you won't go over budget this year. Your spend is 7,000 under budget. So even if you increase the extra $1,000 for 5 months, you're still coming in under budget. For next year though, you will be at least $7,000 over plus your equipment costs.
Well, yeah, that's what I said, I'll have a number for you at next meeting, because we're not.
But today is where we set the high water mark. We have to estimate today.
So if you have to estimate right now, based on Centos and the new cleaning company, that's.
Honestly, I can't do that unless I'm in a computer and look at all the
Okay,
information.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, is those two numbers right there are $42,000. So do you need 45,000 in your new budget?
Strong, that's why I have to go and look, I have to look at invoices, I have to see what we've been paying, I have to see where I've cut in costs, what's gonna grow again, I just can't throw a number, because I don't wanna cut myself short.
I would recommend going with 45. If we find out differently, then we just recognize that we're gonna have to shift it from somewhere else in the budget. Clearly, we have a million line items. There's gotta, if we need to find $2,000,
Yeah.
there's gotta be something we could reduce.
I like to come in with perfect and precise things, I don't like to guess.
We'll have
That's how I am.
Teresa, at the next meeting, you can do that.
Yeah.
Because we can always reduce them.
Yeah.
Today, we have to walk out of this room saying what the high number is.
Okay.
So that's why we're pushing it. We're not saying it has to be precise today, you can get us to the next one.
Right.
So what Andy just proposed is we're gonna set a high water mark that is $10,000 more than what you currently budgeted.
Okay.
You can come back to us next month and tell us how close that is.
Okay.
That,
Yeah.
it is what it is though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can always reduce it next month.
And have a walk out remaining.
Right.
I have two questions. This company gave you a bid of like 3,100, you said initially? But he lopped 600 a month off. What do you think he was?
Well, he came back today and, you know, I told him what we're bidding against and he's willing to match the other proposal. He wants.
So he's basically, he's wanting the business.
He wants the business.
So he lowered his
Yeah.
price.
He either had a lot of fat in it
Or he just needs the business.
Now, the other question I have is this, I'm sure you've checked them out, but in our cleaning companies in the past, we've had sort of mom and pop operations in the past. Is this a larger company that has deeper pockets, more resources, or are we?
He came recommended from, yeah. James.
Yeah, and I can give you some of his background. So he is, his name's Jeremy Crawford. He actually used to be way back when, he used to be the site manager for Meadow Point 3 or 4.
Okay.
Years ago, he started off on his own, his business, J-Man Enterprises, and he does a wide variety of things. But one of the prime services that he does is this cleaning service. So it's definitely in his wheelhouse. He has folks that work with him. He does everything from clubhouses to places that just have cabanas that he's cleaning basically 2 bathrooms. So he kind of has the broad scale. He also does a bunch of other stuff. He does pressure washing, he does minor repairs, he does sidewalk work. I mean, he's kind of a jack of all trades. But in my opinion, I think this is probably his bread and butter because, you know, if you sign a contract that you're going to be cleaning a facility for, you know, however long, that's a lot easier to rely on than, hey, I'm going to get a pressure washing job or fix a sidewalk type thing.
I didn't know what your selection was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to get into another mom and pop thing where we're disappointed with the service.
Well, no, that's why I asked for, but now I'm asking professionals for recommendations.
He's not a mom and pop, he's not a huge business. I mean, obviously, sole proprietorships, but, you know, he's got the resources to do those sorts of jobs because I've been working with him in different CDDs for the past probably 8 or 9 years.
Okay. So no quality.
Yeah, I actually trust Andy now because he did, you know, recommend Conasset and I'm very happy. They're doing a great job.
But it pays to have a
I trust you,
business.
Andy. So thank you.
Good.
Okay, so with that said, Vivek, I want to just say, since they're not performing under their contract, can you look at that and see if I can terminate them right away? They did, you know, on the contract, this thing asking for 30 days.
Is this Stratus or is
Yeah.
this? We can probably send them notice and then see if they respond or say when they need us 30 days and we're gonna hold you to it. And that'll be that. We can see if they'll be amenable to it, they'll understand, and maybe they feel that they're strapped or they're extended. But you know, to the extent they push back, we just have to wait out.
I think that is it, unless anybody has any questions.
It did, this goes into the budget discussion for the little playground. In the reserve, we had allocated $145,000 for pool resurfacing, was that used?
That was used, yes.
And that came out of reserves, was that allocated to reserves? So that, we can safely zero that out this year? It's most of it was, yeah, or something. So then the allocation we have that would be for, we do have bathroom renovations. Hold on, make sure I'm on the right line on there. No, not that one. We just have general clubhouse improvements. we have anywhere from $24,000 to $25,000 a year set aside, not in O&M, but in actual reserve. The bathroom renovations were done with reserve money actually from 16, 17 that were never used. So based on our budget allocation, or based on our financial statements here, we're at 2.6 in the reserve versus a 1.043 goal. So I know we've got it in there. Do you have a general idea on what worst case, what's that's going to cost?
Mm-hmm. So probably about $100,000 for the features itself. And then to get rid of the top portion and flatten it, that I don't know yet. I'm waiting for the full doctor to give me a price on that. But I would say no more than $15,000 maybe for that.
So 115K is worst case if
I would think so.
this next fix.
And then I can always negotiate.
Okay. I don't think we have to account for it right now in the O&M because we have it in the reserves, but.
Well, the thing is, this patch might get us through another year.
Right, and that actually.
So therefore, we wouldn't back the heating of the whole thing.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
You guys want to address the Cynthia proposal, Teresa's update here? Yeah. We haven't made a final decision on this.
So this latest quote that they gave us was, I think everyone has emailed a copy that was not this one. Or this one. At some point they went out, but it did not include those, that liquid, the liquid blanket. Yeah, all the liquid blanket stuff. And so, so we asked them to go back and get the numbers for liquid blanket. And so that's the only inflation, we just to account for the cost of that.
That was pretty minimal.
And heating is important.
This brings on the splash pad.
That's correct. It actually, it adds thank you for clarifying. It adds the splash pad plus the liquid blanket. They had originally come in over the 300,000 threshold, and I reminded them that they can do that if they wish. And they promptly adjusted. So that's what it is. So here's the other discussion I just want to bring up from a budget perspective is, are we ready for the budget? This is the next item.
No. Can we even time for your report, or should we go back in time?
So let's pause this then, because I think probably before that will be the time again.
Teresa, did you have anything else?
No, I didn't.
Team is kicking butt, Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you.
That can we do next one, stay hold it here, and we'll let time to go.
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna update in my report was the legislative cycle, because we can talk about this 12 months later on. So obviously, April 30th, it concluded. I'll mention two bills specifically. We already talked about House Bill, Senate Bill 72, which provided COVID protection, COVID tort protection with respect to any claims. So that's we already discussed. The two other bills I'm just gonna quickly mention, House Bill 35. That was the one that would have allowed us to publish our notices for meeting on our website. It passed the House, but unfortunately when it went to the Senate, they basically reconstituted it and modified it to essentially require newspapers to provide online publication, require the state to provide a website for additional publication if they're going to elect to use that option. And that would be effective January 1, 2022. So obviously, it's not going to be the cost savings that we were hoping for if we could put it on our own website. They have not determined what the rates are yet. It has to be reasonable, but again, it should be reduced from what the newspaper currently has. And then one other thing is they now permit additional publishing. So before, there's something. So there may be some savings.
Is that what could be able to do neighborhood news?
Well, potentially, we'll have to look, they did modify what it is, so we'll have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. Again, they'll generate the list, so you can find out on that. The next one.
We still have to pay a newspaper.
Yeah. The next one was just Tyco 103, and that's just minor modifications to what's going to be required to be put in the audit. The auditor is going to be putting in that information. Simple stuff of how many employees you have, what's your assessments that you certify on tax bill, things of that nature.
Nothing significant change price or anything.
So it's information that, it's already in the financial statements, so it should not cause a major impact to the CD's operations. And that will be effective October 1, assuming the governor signs out. We'll provide a memo that we have in years past with other bills that have passed that just really modify back and stuff, some with respect to payment of pages or penalties for the failure to pay on the time. But that's all I have for the board. Again, we're going to talk about the S12 assignment to the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you also for dropping everything on the Dimes notice for some of these requests that made sent your way, so thank you. And handling what seems to be our Friday afternoon call.
Well, I tell you, I mean, John sent me the RFP for, I think, 2 months ago. Some stuff gets pushed when it can. And,
Sorry, John, it's been on Friday, so,
I do apologize for that. I will get there.
Tanya, you still with us on the phone here?
Yes, I'm still, but that's not moving.
Sorry, what?
I said, but that's not technically.
No, I'm still here, Tanya. Don't worry. I'll chime in if you need me.
I would take a review of that and on information from the construction plans on the pool and the orange machines. And I did speak to the last Friday after I researched this after our conference call. And wanted to explain to the board and particularly the input from you of that looking at this and Don looking at this. This particular location, and I think we briefly talked about it in the conference call and indicated why the homeowners, that backyard is very steep. It is very steep. It is a small lot with a design with a house pushed back from the front yard. You can tell, now I know that if you open it or Taylor, if you can distribute it to the board for this document, but it is a very, very small lot with very little room in the backyard. It was pushed back to maximize the building envelope. We have an elevation where the erosion is occurring, where the top of bank is on is right at the rear property line, elevation 7, with an elevation 67.5 at the same location. So you've got a 6-inch issue immediately at the lot border. And then it goes up to 68.38. So that is just outside the building envelope. We have a very steep slope. And then we have a very steep slope where it starts to go into the CD property with pond.
Tanya, we lost you.
It was just getting good.
No, all right, so while she's redoing, you're forwarding that from me, email?
Yeah, according to, she just sent me.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And I was asking the next question, I was trying to figure out the responsibility in these conditions is quite complicated to me because we're looking at a pool builder who built a wall, and what is their obligation to make sure that the wall is designed and constructed to accommodate these kind of conditions? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Hunter.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it really depends on the site conditions at the time of the pool was installed. This is not something that was recent. I believe, the pool was it in 17? Did you install the pool or the prior owner?
Correct, I was willing to work for
I think the homeowner waited a while.
Yeah, and the homeowner's here as well, so he's able to kind of provide some info on that. So that was 2017 or just, at least
Yeah,
according to Harvey Code, that's
Right, so the AMR was approved in about 2 years after the fact that we built the pool. The pool's been built, this is the fourth year.
So the problem is obviously, we don't know what the site conditions were at that time and whether natural site conditions caused it or this construction caused it or something else or those pipes that, we discussed. There's a lot of factors that can go into explaining the erosion. At the end of the day, we all know that there is a problem that needs to be fixed.
Was the property not graded initially in the construction to run to the front? Was there a natural slope going back into the woods, or was it, everything's supposed to be pitched to go up to the street?
Taylor, please give the color, the copy of the high point of the grading is at the rear location of the home, and it was designed to on a open area compared to, what is actually constructed.
Which
The high
property
point was supposed to be
is lot 164,
was there.
so.
But the back lot line should be the high point, shouldn't it?
No, not, and that's not plan, the design plan, the actual construction plan, at the high point at the back of the structure, and then floating down to the back, in the back.
Well, that's totally against what the way it was supposed to be designed.
Well, Jack, my old home has a AB. It's high points in the center, drains front back. So mine's an AB. So not all of them are high in the back, drain in the front. Mine drain to the back and the front. So I don't know about this particular one, but.
Yeah, this one I think is graded, is a lot type A, right, Tyler, if I'm looking at the map correctly that you sent, the actual.
And I will, just for your information, I just compared the envelope of the structure in an aerial to what's on the design plan, and it looks like it's pretty close. It looks like they maximize the square footage of the house itself.
So somebody help me out with
So I would just like to make another statement too. This repair, there was a repair done by the CDD and homeowner association. Because when we first bought
we have multiple conversations we want to say.
So just to readdress this issue, the drainage issue, is not the first time this has happened on the property. This previously, before I bought the property in 2010, in 2012, 2013 time period, there was a lot of erosion to the point where I complained to the CDD HOA association, and they were out to repair it. They fixed it the first time. Then I waited about 2 more years after the fact, before I built the pool, to make sure that it wasn't going to deteriorate anymore. But after the pool was built, and fast forward 5-6 years now, the rain and the water that's being drained off the property, and not just from my property, in between my house and my next door neighbor's house, and also the sprinkler systems that run to water the irrigation on the other side for the property for the 7 Oaks. All drains in that area. So all that the pool did was move where it was originally fixed out probably about another 15 feet from where it was previously fixed before. And now the erosion is still happening. It's current. I mean, this is over a period of time. It wasn't overnight. This is, like I said, 5 years now that this has been continuing to erode. And it's now just getting worse. And the reason why I bring it up is the fact that I know that the elevation, looking at all the other properties, there's only 1 or 2 other properties that house backs as close as mine does to the retention pond. But mine has the deepest slope. I mean, the deepest cutoff. The elevation is extremely low at that end of the house. And it's angled backwards to drain off, not angled like John was talking about earlier, angled either A, B, or if it's draining to the front.
Right.
It directly drains to the back on both sides of the house.
All right, thanks for that. So let me ask staff then, just to make sure I have a full understanding of the problem. Is the problem here that the drainage easement has too much erosion, or is the problem on the resident's property, or is it both? I'm not asking for fix. Is the drainage easement not right behind the property? Am I looking at the wrong?
No, the drainage easement is on the CDD land. I mean, it is not a drainage easement, it's a pond on CDD land.
So, okay, make sure I'm looking at the right thing then, Tanya. Am I not looking at 69, Yes, 69.0, and it's lot number 1 on Grassland Drive.
Yeah, Tanya, the map you sent says drainage easement right behind the house.
Okay, so the map you sent has a drainage easement directly beyond that property. Are you saying
Are we
that?
talking about the one right there? That thing?
Yep.
Okay, so again, that's just on the plat, that's the pond itself, that's owned city property.
I completely understand that. So that's my question is there a problem in that drainage easement, or is there a problem on the resident's property, or both? And I'm not asking to fix. I'm just saying, where is, you would say both, okay. So then.
Because this is the aerial, so it's actually the pond itself, the pond bank.
Yeah, understood, okay. So then, in order to find out, maybe, I'm gonna use the word fault, but I'm not trying to necessarily point fingers, I'm just trying to find out root cause here, the situation. It could be because we've got an easement, we've got underground water moving around, we've got everything else, and it's done two things, right? Impacted our property as well as our easement, right? I know prior, we've also said that there is the fact of the extra water that the property or properties in this area are adding, such as the drainage, such as the sprinklers and stuff like that. So can this be, I guess now that this goes into fix, now that I have that today, is the concept of that the homeowner should address the pitch of their yard and we fix the problem with the drainage erosion at the same time?
Nobody said there's drainage erosion yet, right? Did the drain cause it? I mean, do we know the cause?
Well, I think cause is the thing that nobody can answer, right? But the reality is today we have erosion in our easement, and we have erosion on his property. And so I'm wondering, without the finger pointing necessarily, is the fix that both of those have to be fixed at the same time, or is just to fix one? I mean, I can only imagine there's no sense in him going and building up his yard.
So, and I've done that. So on the property, actually the retaining wall, I had the pool developer, it's I think it's 7 foot from, you only see maybe 2.5 feet, but the rest of it is all underground. That's 7 foot, goes straight down retaining wall. So it was constructed in a way so it would not cause any additional erosion and actually prevent erosion. And then 5 feet from the edge of the pool out, I did make a berm and put plants, vegetation, and lights and so forth out there. It's beyond that where the erosion originally was. That's where it starts to drop off. And if I was to build it up to a point where it wouldn't be erosion, you're looking at maybe about a foot and a half of fill dirt. I'd have to put all along that area. Then somebody else would have to come and increase the height of the end of that bank.
Yeah.
Because I mean, all you're doing is creating a step down. If I was to.
Well, that's what I guess I'm asking is if the fix is that both of us have to do something on our property, we just need to synergize on that.
Yep.
I'm asking if that is the recommendation from staff.
Yes, and I believe that's what we had talked about, correct me if I'm wrong, that work needs to be done on both properties, correct?
Yeah.
It's a loaded question, and I apologize, but I think essentially, right now, we're trying to find the fix, we're not really allocating or.
I'm not saying who's going to pay for it, I understand, but the reality is we have 2 pieces of property. The fix has to go hand in hand, right? And that's where we're at today, right?
Can I ask you a question? I'm not sure, excuse me for my ignorance, but is there a way or possibility we can have somebody from environmental side of the house from Pasco County come and do the assessment on that specific bank and not just ours, for that property, but ones that have drainage issues? Because it's not, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's not about a finger pointing. This is, I'm a homeowner. I live here. I love this place. I have a shared responsibility just like every other homeowner out here. I don't mind doing my part, but I want to look for a long-term solution, something it's not going to, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, we're going to have to come back and address this again.
Sure.
If there's not a permanent fix in place.
Yes, so we have certified engineer on the phone. That's a requirement, so definitely there's expertise that has that. not with the county, but she is a certified engineer. We also have pond mitigation vendor that we have plans already active, and they do look at these ponds. I'm interested in knowing if they've looked at this.
I was only bringing that up for an
You
example.
don't, just a comment, please. I'm saying, and I think I may have mentioned this to John, where was the term before school?
Yep.
And I think that is probably, and I just learned and acknowledged the fact that the past few years, we've been doing this for so long, the worst thing that ever happened is just down south. And that creates such a mess, but I'm looking at the aerial from 2013, and there's clearly two locations of erosion on the pond bank in the pool.
Yeah.
Suspecting that probably came from down south, probably Bob repaired it and moved on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, fair enough. So and I think you have a fair question. I think it's a slightly separate topic, but I'm with you, right? Is we do have contractors to look out at the pool or out at the pools, but definitely at the ponds as well on a regular basis. And we do on every year, you know, they'll choose the ones that they feel need to have aquatic plants put in and you know, fixes and stuff like that. My understanding on this one was that there was some initial hesitancy to jump towards us fixing it. First of all, because there was suspicion that it was possibly something from your property causing this. I think what we found out now is that's probably true, but it's probably not necessarily a direct cause for you, right? It's just the natural water is going down and your property has been impacted as well, you know, with it. And, you know, drainage erosion simply happens. So I'm kind of getting to, and that's why I'm stepping through. I want to make sure I have all my facts. It's stepping towards to sound like that the CDD has a responsibility of fixing the drainage easement erosion. But again, it's useless if you don't fix the sloping or any issues that you have, so that we can match the height max to fix whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and I've already made sure that where the pools are, but they have the drainage coming off, linked with the downspouts on the drain. I've already taken all that out, so there's no water at all coming out of or draining onto the property outside of where it's coming off the
Is this
downspout.
house involved in any way?
This is the first house.
Yeah, is the second house involved in any way?
Yeah, so, well, no, because the slope behind their house is a lot more, yes. It's-
You can see this map here, where the slope starts. It's literally, you know, might as well be teed up to this property line here, whereas this guy, only that corner.
I measured from my property line to the actual pond, and it's only 20 feet. But there's no slope, it's straight down.
20 feet makes sense. I think there's typically about a 15-foot buffer back there, and then you got 5 foot property line, right?
Would you just put filter in them to create a slope or?
Well, if you do that, then you're creating a step up, and then, you know, you're gonna cause more problems with the erosion on the rest of the lake, because all the water is just it'll go to that and then drain straight down.
So what do you think? So Tanya, do we have a fix proposed? You guys know?
John and I have talked about this, and I think we are good with the, you know, whether it's on with the lesser cost, but we definitely know that this is a hydrology with this very limited situation, so we're gonna have to make sure that we do a repair that it's gonna be able to handle that, you know, hydrology flow.
Are we talking about?
I don't know if I understood a word that you said, but.
Tommy had a vendor produce a proposal
Okay.
to repair the bank.
Okay.
So we have that before.
We do have it. How much is that?
What does that involve? Like, what is the fix?
They'll come in and they'll pull the bank back, and then they will, lose my train of thought, but they'll put, tarping and backfill in there, and then they'll regrass it and create, or properly regrade the slope. But I think.
Is that on his property?
No.
It's not on
our property whatsoever. Simply.
Do we think that fix, because it's the question I asked earlier was fix what needs to be on both properties, so that will fix our pond bank, but it doesn't sound like it'll stop the issue from continuing to happen.
It'll just cut irrigation.
Unless.
And John, I think one of the important things that was a little concerning to me is the wall of the pool. I mean, obviously, that would be one of my biggest concerns concerned that there wasn't, kind of that slope is so steep. We have no control over Mother Nature mostly anymore, so the work that we're doing is not going to stabilize that slope to prevent, anything happening that could be potentially possible that wall.
Fair enough. So we're saying that the quote we have will fix the pond bank, will backfill it, will stabilize it. We think that's a long-term fix. The note to the resident is that it's not changing his property at all. It's not mitigating nor supporting any possible risk that he might still have. And the recommendation would be for him to bring in proper expertise for his property to ensure that there's nothing impacted, right?
Can I interject something? Is there any possibility of a retaining wall being put as almost an extension of the wall of the pool?
Yeah, so technically the outside wall is, the outside wall of the pool is a retention wall.
But it's not that.
But extending it further.
You're saying like a stable.
Huh?
You wouldn't want to extend it 15 feet. You don't want a 15-foot wide wall of concrete.
Right.
You need a second one that's perpendicular.
So what do you think your fix is on your property? I mean, is it gonna work with?
So if I had a whiteboard, I'd show you. It's really simple. Yeah, the way the house, if you look at the property itself, and it drains everything is sloped down to the back. It slopes down between the two houses, my house and my neighbor's house. It slopes down. That is part of the design flaw, if you ask me, from where the house was originally built and put on that piece of property. Instead of pushing it back, they should push it closer to the front closer to the road. You probably wouldn't have the problem. The other issue on the other side of the house is where you have constant water from the Seven Oaks irrigation system. When it's watering the trees, it's going down that way. I only have mine on once a week, even during the rainy season. I don't even have it at all in rainy season because all the water continues to wash out. But it is, if you look at it, the way that whole property from my house to my property line all the way to the berm, where it was built up by the gate entrance, all slopes down. So that's why I'm asking for maybe there should be a little bit more of an in-depth study on that area. It's because that's not only my property, but it's also the CDD property. It's going to continue to move down that way.
Number one, I didn't understand what your first one was, where two houses slip down to the pond. I have that same situation in my backyard.
All right, so if like I said, if I had the picture of the actual house between the houses, the houses in between houses slope down this way, and then it goes straight back. There doesn't go forward.
Some of the spillway.
Say again.
What about the spillway?
I didn't see a spill. If there is a spillway there, I'm not sure what.
If the water comes down between the two houses, it goes, but it's a concrete bed or
No, there's not one there.
No, I know there's not. I'm saying if it was a spillway that went out almost to the pond, you almost had a waterfall coming through, you wouldn't be eroding the bank.
Right, if there isn't one there now.
I understand that. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to interject at. Is that a possibility?
That would be on this property though. If you're talking about at a point where it would help dissipate the flow of water, you would want that all the way down on district property. So he wouldn't be able to do that necessarily.
Yeah. Do you think a French drain would help on?
Absolutely.
Are we watering it too much to create?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, in the past it was. I'd say I've watched it in the past couple of months, and it hasn't been on it as frequent as it used to be. But that thing was almost on every night.
The problem you have there is that zone is tied to a whole zone that runs other parts of that street.
Yeah.
So I can't just isolate that zone.
So be careful with the French drain too. I mean, the engineers already made the comment that some of the drain, in essence, the French drains, right, that you had coming off of your gutters, right, these off the back are maybe not the contributing factor, but certainly they'll help the situation, and those have been removed, right? So I don't know if we want to do that. I do like the idea of, a more sustained, possibly like a seawall concept though. So, we give Tanya a second.
Josh, underground drainage control groundwater, they're not used to control this kind of situation.
Yeah, understood. So the fix that we have, I understand from John, is there's some backfill that needs to be done, and we fixed basically the drainage easement wall, right? Can that be fixed with concrete so that it doesn't cause erosion again? We already fixed it once. We're about to possibly say that, well, it needs to be fixed by somebody twice. Is there something more permanent that can be done? Even if it is a step from his property, I don't mind the step down concept in the pond. I just want to make sure that wall, stays put. So can we make something more permanent?
I'm not aware.
A seawall, for lack of a better word, in order for it to really get the same thing as situation as a retaining wall for the pool.
Right.
I used to work with Portland, and they would all put in seawalls. The problem is, we were in the heart of the dry season, and the water level in the pond was way down against the bottom of the wall. So in order for you to get a secure seawall or retaining wall, have to build it deep enough so that it doesn't expose itself to potential for erosion underneath the wall. That's what kind of critical.
Yeah, understood.
So,
But that would be more permanent than the dirt solution.
Well, the other angle is that the access to the backside of the pond for maintenance, to mow, is going behind this gentleman's home.
Yeah.
So I can't put a structure there that will prevent a mower from driving along that pond bank.
No, I understand the structure of it.
No, yes, sir.
It would be
on the backside of the pond.
It would be at the top level of wherever his property ends, wherever the bank should be. Right?
Yeah, I don't know that answer. I've never seen that practice. Not saying it doesn't exist, I've just never seen it. I know they can come in and just recreate that bank and make it look like it never changed from day one.
Yeah, but recreating the bank doesn't solve the fact that we clearly have some underwater issues eroding that. So I want them to recreate the bank and then also put something more permanent in. I think seawall analogy is great, although I don't want seawall around the entire community pond or something of that nature, right? But something more permanent than just.
Well, we could revisit with your contractor.
Yeah, let's ask the contractor for something more permanent.
You just step up.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's more costly, right? I get that.
But what they typically do is they'll, and Tom can speak to this a lot better, but typically they'll either do what John had described, where they're actually gonna pull it up and kind of pin it down and then sod over top it, and then another fix, a more long-lasting fix is they'll actually use different types of rock or aggregate. Well, I mean, they certainly could, but at least in the applications that I've seen, they can do anything from put it in cages to also put it in, some sort of something that holds it in place and sod over top of it as well. So, but again, to Josh's point, it gets very expensive very quick.
Yeah. And we just I just want to compare that, right? I mean, we got to put a fix in no matter what. If we're fixing this every 10 years, then let's stop that. You know what I mean? So I get you on that. So is everybody on the board okay? We'll foot the bill to fix the erosion on our property. The resident is to apply the same logic and ensure that their property is the erosion issues that are applied to that. And I think to your point of getting somebody out there, you can hire an engineer to check what's draining on your property and make sure that your pool is safe and all
So
that
I did have somebody, the landscaping company, who was also a general contractor for plumbing as well. And he gave me an estimate on, just rerouting where the line, where I currently have sprinklers. So the problem is, like I said, I can have vegetation in back, but it's not gonna get the irrigation like it was before. So I cut all of the water line that was actually watering the grass on my bank, because I still have, like I said, maybe 5-10 feet of my property that had grass on. I'm okay with getting rid of the grass and putting the concrete there as well. I mean, I want to help whatever.
Unless it's positioning that, I just want to make sure that you're being instructed that whatever we're going to do to fix this pond bank is not going to impact your property, so make sure you bring in the appropriate professionals to evaluate your property.
That's what I was thinking, of a spillway that would be, the ditch is between your house and his, the back from the pool to back would be a spillway that would fall down, and you have a retaining wall there. Would that work?
It probably would, but, to John's point and Officer Tanya's, you still have to fix the bank problem, because as John already had stated, when the mowers come through there, they're not gonna have enough space. I mean, they can't even drive it. They have to drive in between the houses now to get to the area where they have to mow. Before, they used to drive behind my house. Now they have to drive in between the houses to get over there, because that's how much the bank is eroded from, over the years, from where it is to now.
They can't enter it from any other place?
Nope. Then there's no way. There's no other access point other than come along the bottom of my property to get to that area, or come between my house and my neighbor's house to get to that area.
Which technically, we don't have access to do that. They've been gracious enough to allow it to happen.
So should we actually extend them?
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe if he extended the bank out, I don't know if the engineers or the contractor you had John look at that.
Well, that's the revisiting that we're gonna do.
Yes, sir.
When I revisit with the contractor,
Okay.
we'll have that discussion.
Yeah, we got this plan out here, so Tanya will go back and evaluate, we're gonna fix the CDD property, he's gonna fix and evaluate his property. At this point, we're gonna wait for Tanya next meeting, she can bring her original proposal, and then I'll level up for a more long-term proposal.
Yeah, I want the long term.
You know, it's, we're gonna have to rely on her to come up with those, options for us, so.
Good.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, Tanya, do you have anything else you want to go over?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Tanya, what's the HA 5 dates?
It's still on, that's still that's gonna be exactly what we're going to do.
Good.
I mean, not that I use better, but I'm gonna be wanting to do,
Okay.
She's not involved with the fence company.
Anything about this, there doesn't be a property member or something at where NBC.
She's saying October is the petition to do it. Thanks, Tanya.
Anything else for Tanya before we go?
No, I would like to say one more thing too. When John and Tanya and everybody meet together and talk to a contractor, I'd like to be part of the solution. So, I mean, if you don't mind me, part of that assessment process, or when they come out there and look at it, I'd like to be part of the solution. Meaning, I'd like to add whatever I can do to help.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, district manager update, next board of supervisor meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 9th, 2021, 6:30 PM back here. There was a golf cart request from SOPA to discuss a little bit about enforcing the golf carts on the street. I don't know if there's much to talk about, we're waiting for.
Did you resend the response to?
She originally mentioned splitting payment for more share, enforcement, but we'd like to look at some other options that are less costly.
So I can address that, because, so at the last SOPA meeting, the golf cart topic came back up, right? A lot of you weren't on the board at the time, we had a co-board meeting, with SOPA, and that was back in September, I believe. And the golf carts came up there as well. Some of the landscape with golf carts is that we have a CDD policy right now that says no, golf carts or electric vehicles on any CDD property at all, which would include the roads, the trails, the sidewalks, etc., any public spaces. What our policy can't do anything about are street legal golf carts, because they're not a golf cart at that point, and there is a special subset of law that I can elaborate if you really need to on it, but we can say no golf carts, right? The problem comes down to enforcement. We're not an enforcement arm. We have policing authorities, we have finding authorities, we have nothing of that nature, right? Most we can do is restrict the clubhouse access, something of that nature. SOPA, on the other hand, does. So SOPA has the ability of finding for violations of CDD policies, assuming SOPA puts it into their documents, right? Because they're the ones who control their covenants. So just like street parking is in the Seven Oaks SOPA covenants, and so therefore they enforce street parking on CDD property because it's CDD policy. The question of whether SOPA should enforce it, define it, gets complicated because then you get into, well, how would they do that? How do you know golf cart A belongs to person A, right? Is Amy going to be driving around during the day, following people to their home on golf carts? What do you do with minors? All this sort of stuff. It's a topic, right? The only thing that we have right now is called sheriff, which first of all is not the most friendly things to do, especially considering it's the only thing to do. And also with COVID, the sheriff has been very clear that they're taxed out on more important things than some of these minor violations. So the reality is now, okay, we need to put our heads together on how do we solve the issue, right? Is it possibly being more lenient on it? Is it allowing golf carts to make a registration system for it? Is it being even more strict? Is it paying for off-duty patrol officers to enforce specifically the golf carts for a couple weeks and mitigate it? Is there a lot of things? There's all kinds of options on the table. And so what SOPA has done is Dick over there on the board has agreed to be the SOPA liaison, and they've asked us to assign someone to be the CDD liaison. And the idea is that somebody from SOPA and somebody from CDD will get together, brainstorm, possibly take it to the residents council, talk about different ideas on how to do it, and then present back to the respective boards. The action item was for Amy to notify Taylor of that request so that we could all be prepped at this meeting to have that. Unfortunately, what came over was just yesterday or today was a request to split the money for patrol officer. So we kind of jumped the gun there a little bit on the request. So I did follow up with Gary and with Mark to make sure that I didn't misunderstand something, and I think Amy misunderstood the request. So we're back to the general question of who from SOPA, if we wish, who from CDD, if we wish, should be designated a point person to work with SOPA, just to do the brainstorming on what are all the possibilities that SOPA might be able to help out with, CDD might be able to help with. Some of it, maybe it's just education, right? Maybe it's just social media.
Before we get there, let's, just like this drainage issue, gotta go to the root cause, and the other things will take care of themselves. We have the policy of not allowing golf carts anywhere in the community. Golf carts meaning ones that are not street legal. The question is, somebody moves in here, and either owns a cart already and brings it with them, or thinks that this is the village's too, and they can drive the Publix, you know, or allow their kids. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't have a golf cart. And if they have a golf cart, they're gonna get fined.
Well, so they're allowed to have a golf cart, we never should have. Whether they drive it on our property for weekend. So,
If it's street legal, but most of these are not street legal.
I'm not,
But even the finding concept, the only way to do that would be for SOPA. And so,
And you have to fix them.
you have to catch them, right? So I'm not saying I disagree with you, Jack. I'm just saying right now what we're saying is
But we
have an
I
unenforceable
don't want to work
policy.
from a premise that we're somehow trying to allow them to do it. Like register all these vehicles, that's not a solution at all.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I would like to see all the ideas
so
on
you
the
can do
table.
that creatively, Jack, is if you register these 4 golf carts and we put it on our website or whatever, saying there's a red one, a blue one, a yellow one, and a green one.
There's quite a few.
Tell us if the green one was in violation.
Look, many golf cart communities do this, they register it. You put a sticker right on the side that has a number on it. You can clearly identify who it is, when they're in a place you're not supposed to, now you know who they are. You can also pay for any additional time or anything else. Registration is actually not necessarily a horrible idea, but it is a whole new process to do, and it does open this up. Jack, I'm not saying
But
that's.
those
the right way.
communities allow for carts to be used in them. We have no facility to use carts here.
I feel like you're putting your foot down on a topic we haven't even got to yet.
Well-
The reality is, who can work with SOPA? It can't be you. Who can work with SOPA to go say, hey, you know, because I can tell you right now, the majority of the board on SOPA is completely against taking on any role in this. They do not want to be the finding, they do not want to be involved on it, they don't want to be involved in it. But they also recognize that it's a problem that the CDD's position, and we did confirm it back on the September meeting, is that we've done everything possible that we can do with our hands are tied to do anything additional. We can't fine anymore, we can't do restrict anymore, we can't do anything. We have a policy in place, and we have the sheriff's office, and we have a ballot track and parking jurisdiction agreement.
So I'll volunteer. Okay, I'll volunteer to take on that because I have an issue with the golf carts as well. When I see a 12-year-old kid who can't possess a license to drive, driving a golf cart on AOV, I have an issue.
That's as simple as it is, I think. So you are tasked, work with Dick Buffington. So will you know what, I'll close the loop with Gary and Mark. I'll take the action item to let them know that to contact you. Obviously, I won't contact you to make sure we don't sunshine this, but I will close the loop with those three.
Yeah, I'll take that.
All right.
Next item, encroachment letters were sent out to the two residents that are blocking that. I don't know if it's really a pond, but the one we talked about last is a pond. So it is a pond event. So they were given 30 days in the letter, so we'll see how that goes. We'll follow up next meeting. The website, new website hosting and email conversion is all complete. Most of that. So that's all been executed as per instructed last meeting. So we have a contract with Campus Suites. Rosetta's hosting the emails. You guys all have your emails. Has anybody any issues with the new ones? I assume everything's good.
I haven't set it up.
I haven't set it up yet.
The question I have, what happens to Seven Oaks Life?
So, Seven Oaks Life will be moved and transitioned over to Soap ownership. Mark's been designated by the Soap Board to own that. So we'll transfer that over. Mark and I are, all our meetings in Campus Suites, we're working together with them on the redesign. As far as emails go, so those of you who have not set it up ASAP, because you need to move your Seven Oaks Life emails over to Seven Oaks CDD, because if you lose those, then we have a public records issue. Yeah. So make sure you set those up and do the move. If you're doing an Outlook, it's really easy to move and drag and drop emails over.
So is there like a sunset period? Like is this?
We're in the sunset period. You're lucky it's still up right now.
No, but the old email's just gonna disappear at some point.
The old email, we're
So
lucky it's
I
up
don't
right
need
now.
to forward it and keep checking it.
I would expect by this Friday is probably the last day. I was actually expecting that. The new CDD website should go live this week. I sent my last final updates over. I wouldn't say it's the world's most fanciest modern website on the planet, but it definitely meets the requirements where I'm looking at a couple of visual changes to make it, but it definitely does what we wanted to do, which is have the minimum legally required information on it. So Mark and I are working, so the Seven Oaks Life site will have the appropriate contact links and stuff. They'll redirect over to the CD site when appropriate. The old concept of how if you were on the CD site, you can navigate, it would just hop you back kind of transparently. That concept's going away. So when you do go to a CD site, it will be apparent you're moving off of Seven Oaks Life and going to CDD. That's just the technical legal nature that we have to be on.
Is there any public letter, newsletter, anything going out so people know what we're doing?
Well, Teresa sends the newsletter out, and there has been social media posts that the pages are under development, and as the new content information, with the new email addresses, for example, on live, she's kept up those posts, so that'll continue.
Jeff, what's the name of your website?
7oakslife.com.
Oh, the same one.
No, Seven Oaks CD.
No, the website. Same
Everybody's
one.
saying the exact same thing, it's all true. 7oakslife.com is the site we're still going to send all the residents to. Our official site is still the same, it's always been, which is 7oakscd. Nothing has changed.
So everything stays the same. I'm just saying for business card purposes.
Everything stays the same.
So the
Emails, nothing's changed. The website, nothing's changed.
what's in,
From where you're tracking them. The sites will be drastically different.
right,
Completely different.
7oakslife.com, www.7oakslife.com.
Yep. But if you're filling out a formal document, Vivek's gonna make sure that 7oakscdd.com is filled out.
That's what it shows up on the Department of Economic Activity.
What's the proper verbiage for the business card?
Email it.
Whatever he's been doing, we'll do it that way. Change it, not gonna do any changes for purposes of that.
Discussion on S12, S19. Josh?
S12, nice to meet you. Did you ask the county to push S12 for?
I did. So again, I don't know if you saw it, but the counties, they talked about moving to a hybrid approach. They'll start allowing resident participation or public participation, I would say, not just residents, in their meetings. So obviously they're still doing limited capacity depending on the location that they are on. They'll have more capacity in one location together. And I use that kind of as a springboard to kind of say, hey, you notice that this was it, that the original request was to wait until they had the opportunity. And got a response from Dave Goldstein pretty quickly. David Goldstein saying, yeah, that is our intent. Well, would you like us to look for this and follow up with the applicant and see what their response is? And he said, yes, please do so, let us know what it is as soon as you can. So I haven't heard back from him, but 2 weeks ago, I can check anything on specific.
Yeah, been 2 weeks, maybe.
Josh, can you dumb it down for us? S12 is the.
S12 is the crown building next to the clubhouse.
Okay.
Yep, sorry about that. The latest was that over the years, we've had negotiations with Crown. We gave them an offer, we gave them an offer, they declined it. They didn't give us a counter offer. We declined it. Fast forward, we went back and said, we now accept your offer, and we heard crickets. So we don't know if we have an agreement or not, because they haven't acknowledged our acknowledgement of the counter. But we have shared with the county that we have reason to believe that we have a valid offer. We're just not sure what the next steps are with the applicant. Their lawsuit with the county and the mediation that ensued over that was tabled at their request on the basis that the county was in COVID restrictions and was not doing in-person, face-to-face meetings at the courthouse. And so that's where we asked Quebec to say, now that the county is allowing people in there, that we're asking the county to push forward this item. And even though the applicant Crown had requested that be delayed, we don't see why it should continue to be delayed. We'd like the county to take a vote on it. And obviously we'll follow that up with, we believe there's a valid offer, full market offer that's on the table, that we're under agreement. So we don't believe that the commissioner should approve the mediation recommendation because of this scenario.
Is there anything that the resident council or the residents of the area can participate in or help with?
When and if the hearing is held for S12, then yes, to show up and support that concept. But at this point, it's been tabled for
indefinitely. They're gonna have to schedule it and notice it, because they did not have a daytime certain.
Yeah.
And this is past the planning commission, this is to the BOCC?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually already been to the BOCC and denied, then they were sued for it. It went through about a year, almost 2 years of mediation, and now we're sitting here that the mediator has gotten to a point to where they want to bring it back in front of the board to either approve the mediator's request position or not.
Well, that's yourself, the mediator kind of stepped back and said, you guys are coming to an agreement. You
The
don't
settlement
need to-"
request.
Does our offer have a sunset on
No, so again, we could certainly put that on it, if the board would like to, currently it's still out of
it? It drops 10,000 a month until they.
I'm okay with just taking it, look, it's tabled, I don't think it works in our favor to go to the county and say, hey, we accepted their counter and we just, keep taking the counter back, right? We accepted their counter, we understand that everything was on hold because of COVID, now that it's not, we'd like to know the answer. And I think that should be our strong position. We've always taken the high road, I think the county has seen that and noticed that. I think the county has always seen that Crown at every stage has,
Jury matter.
Yeah, has specifically just blocked everything and launched lawsuits and throw money at it. So planning commissioners denied it, the BOCC denied it once, and we're hoping that they go deny it again. And we have been a party all the time that's trying to buy the property, so it's not a problem anyway.
Thank
you. So that's S12. S19 is the one by Sam's Club. The latest update we had, I don't specifically know dates, but in the last couple of weeks, S19, the county did notify us that the applicant has requested new dates, so that still needs to be posted, which I haven't seen any posting on that, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. But that will go in front of the planning commission, more likely in the next month or two. I have a meeting actually tomorrow with our external counsel to just re-engage that since it's not active. So that's what it is. We'll definitely need all the support.
The more time that the residents have to kind of get together and fight that, the better.
Yeah, understood.
We did good with 4 days, but we need more time for something like this.
Yep, no, understood. It's very transparent. It's a balancing act of us figuring out what our legal strategy is, making sure that doesn't necessarily go public and it can still be activated and used to work. So
don't tell me that.
Well, it's not that I want, but you know.
Well, and again, our strategy is what we can do on the CD side, but the residents council, residents can certainly advocate for other things that may not impact CD infrastructure.
Yep.
Because we can't say anything about the impact to the residents, children, school traffic, anything like that, but certainly the residents could and should, if they're no good.
Schools is a great example of that, right? Our legal stance and argument cannot include anything that has to do with schools. Doesn't fall under our purview. Residents absolutely.
That could be a topic.
The things like they were gonna build amenities.
Yep.
Properly support that project, they scrapped that, so you come up crowded clubhouse, overcrowded clubhouse.
That kind of secret, or not secret, but unknown information, like there's things you're not allowed to say. Whenever you tell me things like that, like right now, that gives us more information so we can include that in our.
Understood.
Thank you.
Since the applicant had not formally submitted to the county, there's nothing necessarily to go do at this point. So
Yeah, we're just waiting, but we gotta nip it in the bud at the planning.
We're waiting
commission.
as well.
All right, thanks.
Once we know it's from the planning commission and what goes in front of the planning commission, everyone can then start thinking.
Fantastic.
That's what I'm doing. Correct. And again, just for the record clarification, we're not doing anything with the ones by Wells Fargo. From the CDD perspective, residents council are fully, everybody can do whatever they wish. The resident back is very passionate about it, which thank you, sir, for doing that. But from the CDD and our legal perspective, we're not doing it because it is outside of the district. Just one note on that, I did have our traffic engineer, somebody that Tiny works for, look at the traffic plan and use a hypothetical situation of 12, 19, and I don't know that number up there were all approved and modified, what that would mean for our traffic. So we do have that as part of our argument for the city.
So I'm sure that increased our traffic tremendously.
Depends on which expert you ask. If you ask their experts, no, it goes down.
Yeah, right.
Now, that's the same problem that we ran into with the development of the street.
Yeah.
Their traffic and trip estimates were incredibly low. And their estimates in terms of number of actual people living in those 248 units and the cars associated with them, didn't jive with national figures from US agencies.
So we do have our external counsel, again, I got a meeting with them tomorrow, we'll take all that into consideration, and we'll fight it. So we'll keep it up. SOFA has in the past been involved with 12, I can imagine that they wouldn't be in 19, so I'll keep them up.
Everybody tracking this budget?
Yeah, only 8:55.
All right, so, again, the budget, we've already had a workshop on, so this should be minor tuning if anything. Again, the objective tonight is to set the high water mark. I think that everybody was in concurrence last time that we were trying not to increase the assessments. So.
Yeah, so as it sits today, right, everybody can look at page.
After this approval, we can still shuffle funds around between now and the final budget. So we can reallocate, we just can't increase assessments after today. So in theory, we can approve as it is and still move things for the new cleaning service or put it in the signage budget or cleaning supplies.
But it's the total number that's the highlight.
Total number.
Worried about.
Total number.
We could do line item things.
So we could, for instance, if Josh wanted to do some money into reserve contribution, and we want to just take that money from the capital outlay and move it back to reserves to have some contribution, we can still do that.
So.
So if everybody,
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Josh.
if everybody looks at page 47, just kind of as a starting point, you got 47 and 48. I think that's probably the most key thing just to keep in mind here right now, right? And it goes to, you know, what John was asked earlier, just kind of brass tacks on it. If you look at all of the 2021, right, most of page, up page 47, it shows that all of those single-family residents, townhome, multifamily, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90-foot lots, as well as office, on our current planned budget will decrease anywhere from 5.33% all the way up to 7.29%. Right, we'll see a decrease in their CDD fees this year. Well, yeah, from the refi, and we have no balance on that, right? So
That's staying the same.
yeah, but a combined math on that would be that they would see that. And again, it's not necessarily a chump change, you know, the offices will see $1,100 refund, or not refund, decrease. Yeah, decrease from last year, thank you. Everybody else on the rest of page 47, so basically all northern, Powerline North, will see a net zero, increase, decrease, right? So their bond did not change, but because the O&M is staying flat, or 0%. So I wanted to just highlight that as the first thing, because I think we can stay as close to that as possible, especially in the COVID scenario. And we have some pretty big ticket items. The only change that I think I had was really more of a reallocation related to the dollars, and John can help me out on this too, but we had talked about the dog park has been something of, as we've just kind of continued to investigate, size was brought up when it was first initially brought up, and it continues to be the thing that I keep seeing. Putting it back in that space that we had flagged will work for a small dog park. It's a little bit smaller than kind of your average small dog park, but it is well. Considering it's going to be Seven Oaks' only dog park, I think it's kind of hard to sell to say we're putting a dog park, but it's a small one. By the way, we don't near that one. So if you have two dogs, you got to go to different areas or zones or something else like that. So I'm not sure if I'm seeing that the dog park is necessarily coming to fruition. And what was the item that we were talking about? Those funds being reallocated to?
There's been a lot of requests to add color to the main collector roads, vegetation color. Everybody's in agreement that everything's great and green, but they're looking for color. So there was a discussion of possibly reallocating the funds to landscape, where we can just add color to the main collector roads.
So not just the caps we're moving now, but you know, if you're going to go pretty far on, you know, A and B and Mystic Oak on adding some additional color in the middle there.
I mean, we're pretty much stood in the hangers, right?
That's correct.
I think people see better value.
Will not be a flower, it'll be a bush that will produce color.
Just as a suggestion, because I've gone through this in a lot of communities that are older, have been around for a while, where everything does eventually turn green, we would probably really benefit as part of that cost to consider hiring a landscape architect to tell us where we would get the most impact. You know, you can give them a budget, and tell them, you know, generally what you're looking for, and they'll draw out a plan through.
So that was my only tweak, except for this pool thing, which is a little bit of a different thing. So I don't know how people felt strongly about keeping dog park, or we could increase the landscape budget 50K, but then we got to find 50K to cut for something else. And when I look at it, I think the dog park's probably not coming to fruition there, and it's not going to be something that if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's find a different place for it. I don't know if it's going to fit in this year.
I agree with you 100%. I think I never liked that location for a couple of reasons, and if we're going to do a dog park, I'd rather have a lot more planning time. Get to a good spot, get some real firm numbers together, and then we can plan for it next year based on any under budget that we are this year and funds we might have, plus potentially budgeting specifically for next year.
I agree with it too, because I think if we're gonna put a dog park, we want it to be nice. You know, people move into Seven Oaks for a particular reason. We just can't just throw anything together. So I think you know, we definitely put some thoughts around it and make it to where it's presentable and nice.
All right, so let's reduce the capital outlay by 50 and move the 50 into, what road do you want in, John?
Okay, let's go pay for 7. Landscape enhancement.
Which one?
I don't have a number, I'm sorry. It's landscape enhancement. I think it's at 100 right now.
What page is
It'd be somewhere around page 43, 42, 43. Can I tell you where?
That's it, podcast. Yeah, if you wanna watch this.
I think it's gonna be 147, on page 43 here. And then Jack, I think at your point, did we do the Teresa's increase to 45,000 for the, let's do that. Increase that.
By 7,000,
Increase by 10.
10,000.
Yeah, you take it from 35 to 45.
And then Teresa will come back and that's that. Okay, so then that takes us to the pool. So here's the pool quote, right? If you remember from the vendor, if we're going to do this, we sign sooner than later, right? We can get on the schedule to get it done for October or, whenever Teresa wants to come down for us. So in thinking about that, first of all, I am in favor of this. I love it. I think we have funds, everything works out for us and so on for a long time. I think this is a good win for everybody. So I like this. So next thing I say to you is all based off of just assuming that you guys are well changeable. The reality is this is being paid for with reserve funds, right? The way that we have it set is if you look at the proposed on page 44, we have capital reserves at 0. So the way the budget will read on paper is that we're funding the reserves at $0 for next year. Right? It's not really the true reality, because really we're funding it and we're immediately pulling it back out for this capital outlay. But visually on paper, it looks like we're not funding the reserves. And I worry about that being felt or seen. And for those of you who are newer on the board, it's very easy next year when we go back and be like, why was that 0? You know what I mean? Nobody remembers 24 months ago why it was what. And so since it's coming under reserves anyway, my thought was either to pay a chunk of it or to even just go ahead and pay the whole thing and start the project now. We have reserve funds, right? We have 2.6 million reserve funds. And we know what that's covering, what that's not covering. So it's being paid out of reserves, whether it's now or October. If we pay for it now, we more than likely have to do a small modified budget, right, for the year, because we would be over, more than likely to be over.
We're trending under now,
We're trending over, or under, but probably not by 300 grand, right? Yeah. So we may or may not have to do a large amendment budget, which isn't a big thing. It's another document that we just formalize and do everything correctly on. But we can pay for it this year, actually get it started now, and have it in before the weather goes down. And then we change the budget to actually fund the full 340.
So I just have a question. So the 340 that we have there for the capital reserve. So what if we took, I'm just saying, 100,000 out of that to get the project going, and then
that's what he wants to deposit anyways. It's a third basically, which is 100,000.
But the reality is that the number you see on the screen there is for next year, not this year's budget. Okay. So if we spend 100,000, we're spending 100,000 of this year's budget, and we're spending 200,000 of it next year's budget, right? But it doesn't matter what budget it comes out of, the bank account is coming out of the reserve, right? And so that's my thought.
So just trying to understand, so I get that we're using the reserve and that would come off the balance sheet. But what would be the reason for not still assessing for the reserve that would ultimately kind of replenish that if you assess for it in 2022?
100%. So I'm saying change it from 0 to 340,000 and then reduce the capital outlay limit by 340,000.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, that makes sense. I was confused on.
Yep. So we still have a net 0 or as close to that net 0 as 77 to 50 we just moved around.
Makes sense.
But that's it. So just so that From a structural perspective and historical perspective, we continue to fund the reserve. And we're paying for this out of reserves. We just happen to be doing it early and we get it early.
Well, so I just don't know the tricks, and you do, it sounds like you do, but are we covered if we do, like right now, we're doing the high water mark thing. If we go at the end of the year and say, hey, we're gonna spend $300,000 more than not gonna hear.
So if we spend it now, then we do more than likely we will be over budget for this year. And the way that's resolved is by holding a meeting.
We just say,
Here's our amended budget, it's a resolution, so it goes into the meeting minutes, right, whenever we spend money, so probably, when do we do that, September?
Yeah.
30 days after. So.
Okay,
So
it's not that bad.
We're not to spend, I mean, let's just say theoretically, we could replace anything, right? If we want to spend $1 million, let's say with the crown building, right, we want to write that check.
Yeah.
We'd be $1 million over budget. We would fix an amended budget that shows where that money came from. That's it.
So basically, we're going to all tap out the money back to reserve and last move it out.
That's what I would say. Put 340 back in reserve, take 340 out of capital outlay. Start this now.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve this proposal.
Second.
When this proposal for the full year, I was reviewing it, it does not include the payment performance bond because it's over $200,000. We are required to have it. I was looking at the statute and I believe the way it's interpreted, the project cost is solely related to this, and that would just be an add-on, because that's normally not considered unless, it's expired or wants to add it on. So my only request would be to approve it with the stipulation that it be entered into the San Francisco CDD contract and the requirement for a payment performance bond, because that is part of the statute.
Agreed. Amendment.
The only caveat that I have is that given this process, this is kind of a unique process, and not everybody does it right. Are we pretty sure that this company, we're not overpaying for this project? There's another company that can do this, has the same reputation, and would do it for less money.
Yeah, I believe the other proposals were covered, and this was the only vendor.
Cynthia is one of the biggest vendors that do this type of stuff. I mean, they have, their background is, they gave all their references. Actually, I called, I think it was Fish Off, like 2 years ago. It was one that they did, like about 2 years ago that I called. They were very happy with the project. I actually was gonna go look at it, but I never did. You guys didn't.
Was it in the same range? Because I don't remember.
Well, I don't know how many pools they did, and I don't
No,
know.
I mean, they're full.
I don't know how much they charge Fish Hawk. I mean, I can definitely call them. I think it was Fish Hawk, if I can remember correctly. I have notes somewhere. Maybe West Chase, yeah.
Fish Hawk Heritage.
So they did Fish Hawk, yeah.
They do Tampa Works, yeah.
Yeah, they've done, yeah. And I personally don't know of any other vendors that do this. And so,
And it's so funny, I've seen a lot of their bands and hearings and stuff.
I can definitely try to negotiate,
Subliminal
negotiate it down some if you want me to.
But
I'm sure I'm sure they're
given
going
our
to
track
have a little
record,
bit.
given our track record of nature,
Doesn't hurt to try.
I'll put it that way.
I mean, if you.
We're also gonna,
Negotiate that a little bit too, right?
yeah, we did negotiate about $20,000 down. So that there has been a discussion, and then Beck will be putting this on our paper and getting all our standard things, as well as some of the things we've learned over the years, to include, right, some of those, things, which I think has served us well in some of the more recent projects, right? We do multiple some payments from them, so.
Does that include the splash park too? You doing one?
It does, yes.
That's what it is.
So if by chance we end up having to close the Class Park down, if that goes that direction, the proposal and the discussion we had with them was always going to be modular. So we can still pay for it, but they would just schedule it from there. So,
And Rebecca, You know, very, whenever you get a chance, can you get the agreement?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have this on my list.
Sorry.
If you can get me,
Somebody working on it.
yeah, if you can get me a copy of this.
So, and we were told that the budget.
Yeah.
Taylor can forward you.
Alright, so we were told that the governor was gonna have a big price increase in October too, but they were looking for it.
They did expect
They
it.
expected it.
Yeah.
Or so do it
Well,
now.
I can get, yeah, if I can get it rolling, you know, because they already said they were gonna be booked up, so sooner.
Well, this is their locking the price for us, no matter what, you know, and they would get the equipment, so we're good. But
I've just been reading about the Tesla thing, about the solar panels. And they had, gave their contracted people that ordered them, see, it's gonna cost about $30,000 more to do it. And they're suing them to say, you know, no, we're not doing that. So
we have
Do
one record.
you have a time frame? Because I don't think they indicated causing disruption to the full services.
No, it's work,
So as soon as possible, start securing permits, go ahead and move forward.
yeah.
Alright, so we have a first and a second, all board members in favor of the symbiotic service proposal for $299,963. Any opposed? Motion carries.
How long does it take?
Oh, yeah.
I think they said 2 months, right?
Yeah, 60 days, you said. And there will be no downtime. That's what he told me, no downtime.
Now, it's 2 months from when they start,
Correct.
scheduled, so we're starting the process to do, we got the schedule, we got.
And I think that's from when they secure permits as well.
More likely, yeah, 60 days.
Because that's a big variable.
Yeah, this might not go live till.
So who works in them on the well placement section?
We
John
did
would
that, yeah, we.
We had a Zoom call with them 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you have that location, is that ironed out, the locations?
Yeah, I think I sent it, yeah.
Oh,
Alright, so yeah, I know I was talking on some stuff, but I remember. seeing the
Well, one of
proposal.
them's going right in front of the clubhouse area.
If you have that,
Yeah.
I prefer that, I'll add it as an exhibit.
Alright, so that brings us back in finalizing the budget here, John notes to reduce capital outlay, 50K out of the landscape enhancing budget, add 10K to the janitorial budget, the contract, move all capital outlay, 340 to the reserve fund budget, to reimburse what we're gonna spend on this now.
Not all, just the 340,
Yeah, 340.
because it was 570 there now, so.
Yeah, we're at 340 for that. Other than that, is there any other changes that need to be considered, minus, or, you know, count for those changes, give it a core motion to the budget.
I just have one question, so I think this kind of goes to you, John. I know we're doing the RFP for landscaping. Did we kind of set parameters on where we're going to keep that?
We modified the budget to that, yeah.
Was it 850?
855, which was 850. 850, yeah. So 855 was the budget that we had, so we actually put it down to 850. We're only projected for 772 right now.
But yes, I think that would count.
Okay. We had that cranked up to like 9 years or something for a couple years, expecting the RFP, so.
But we're gonna get probably a plethora of interested people.
I hope so, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, so the topic we said about stop signs, did you have an idea? Do we modify this number for your stop signs?
Well, I mean, it'd definitely be a multi-year project. You know, the 55,000 actually goes a long way. So I don't know if, you know, how fast your goal is to get that project done. I don't know where that project ended up. If any, I know some work was done on that project. I wasn't in charge of it at the time, so I don't really know where it ended up. My guess would be if you're gonna stick at that $55,000 annual number, it might be 2 years, possibly 3 to complete it. Be my guess.
Okay. Well, let's just stay on the track that we're on for that right now.
The budget more next year, we need to ensure it's up to. Yeah, those are the three,
Which sector is
start with that.
need that 55,000 a year.
Well, yeah, I mean, my thought process, it's been 55 grand for years, the expectation is going to be 2-year project. That's been 4 or 5 years now, and it's not your fault or position, but, I mean, the reality is, we'd like to do it sooner or later, let's cleanly, it's been this open item for a while now. And especially if we're gonna talk about the golf cart topics again, and talk about enforcement, the sheriff will want to know which roads are in agreement, and, so we might have 2 blocks of very happy people. Okay.
So,
Any motion?
resolution 2021-07, approving proposed budget and setting the public hearing for August 11th, 2021, 6:30 p.m. Motion.
Now, second.
Motion by Josh, second by Amy to adopt the resolution. All board in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now to the easy stuff. Item tab 6, consideration of minutes of the budget workshop meeting held on March 31st, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Andy,
Second.
second by Sean. All board in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Under tab 7, minutes of the board of supervisors meeting held April 14th, 2021.
Nominate.
Motion by Sean,
Second.
second by Tom. All board in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to. You guys still awake?
We just said at the same time.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under tab 8, owner expenditures for the enterprise fund for March 2021, $3,893.32.
Motion approved.
Motion by Tom,
I'll second.
second by Andy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tab 9, O&M general fund for March 2021, $403,273.24.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Sean, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, second by Jack.
Good job.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Supervisor requests.
I just have one thing, so, Teresa and I were just kind of having a conversation probably about a month ago about the vendors and just some of the headaches she's been having. I'm recommending, if we could, John, if you can kind of maybe assist her with that, kind of seeing what her vision is, also talking with the vendor, getting timelines, and making sure we stay on track with those timelines, to make sure that the stress that she's under with the different vendors, we kind of reduce that if possible.
I personally don't have an issue with that whatsoever. I'd like to be involved in that. And I think it would help quite a bit if Teresa's rules. So when the projects come up together, we will manage the vendor in the proper manner.
I think that's just, it works out a little bit better for you, Teresa, it works out for you, John, because at the end of the day, everything falls on your shoulders, and I don't want you to have that stress.
Yeah, and John, with Phoenix schools and things that I don't know as far as irrigation breakage and, maintenance stuff, I always go to him. He does help me out, he does come out and talk to some vendors as well. But, even Christina had an issue, with Chris from Phoenix schools. I wasn't on site, and I told him not to put any dirt in until he spoke to John to see what was going on. Well, John was doing a project over there somewhere. What were you doing?
Yeah, you guys saw we had a tree drop on the big bridge up front, break down the railing. We had a lot of folks that fell over. So I was doing that.
Yeah, so John was on the other side of the bridge, so I sent Christina out and I told her, if you have an issue, just, FaceTime me, But she went out there nicely and she just asked and, he snapped at her. So I don't know, with some of these contractors, with women dealing with some of them, and I heard him on the phone because it was on the speaker, and I'm like, hey, come in here. I said, you don't talk to her like that. We're just trying to figure out what you're doing. And then he went off, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years or whatever, I know what I'm doing. I said, we're just asking you a question, that's all we're doing. We want to make sure it's getting done. So I'm not there to visually see it, so I sent my assistant out to her. But, those are the little issues sometimes I have with some of the contractors.
You love that.
you know, I mean, there's only so much force I can use respectfully, but it's, you know, it does help.
Well, just going forward, I think I would like to be involved in contract reviews. Just basically from here.
Yeah, like we talked about the parks.
Just because there may be some things that.
And I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I just think it'll be best for you, Teresa, just to have that extra set of eyes and maybe that knowledge.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up the gym hours topic again, and put a motion for it to change that to 24 hours, Monday through Thursday. You know, after continuing to think about the last discussion we had for it, the reality is today with no change, the clubhouse is not fully secure for a big portion of the night, so that needs to change no matter what. Right at 4 a.m. we have areas that are unsecure. So I think we need some changing of the alarm situation anyway to make those secure. And while we're doing that, it's quite easy just to simply lock everything down and open the area that needs to be opened up, which is the gym. And clearly we have more residents that have asked for it, and John has provided this supporting data. So I'd like to put the motion forward again for 24 hours, Monday through Thursday for the gym. And to give staff 90 days to work with appropriate vendors, so there's no rush concept to it.
I'll second it again.
All right.
From my perspective, people are talking more about opening it instead of.
Say that again.
From my perspective, he just got feedback from the people that were supposed to be working for us, so, I mean, we don't want security issues, but I think to his initial point, we're gonna actually make it more secure. And then if there's issues, if they're on camera, so we have ways to deal with that.
So, we have a motion.
Yeah.
You know, my opinion hasn't changed. The only thing that I said last month, which, you know, from a liability perspective, and from the security, and I think it might have been you, Josh, that brought it up, that go work at 4 a.m. My comment was, well, we probably shouldn't be. I mean, because I'm always gonna err on the side of protecting the overall community. So if we, you know, if the changes to the security are put in place and then they open 24 hours, I would be much more likely to, you know, change my opinion. But if those change, I don't want to just say, well, let's open it 24 hours starting now, and then we'll get those things fixed. I would want to see those things fixed first.
That's why I put the 90-day window to make sure that the staff felt like zones were secure, that everybody was familiar with the new protocols, whatever needed to occur with that. Doesn't mean we wait 90 days, but they had 90 days to make sure that they're comfortable before they did.
So my question, I'm kind of erring on the side of Randy. So if we do put these protocols in place, let's say we vote this into effect today, when would this go into effect as far as the 24-hour? 90 days or?
Before 90 days, when staff has made the appropriate security changes. I completely agree. We need to lock this down first, right? And that, again, that includes the 4 a.m. times. You know, lock everything down except for the gym. Make everything, you know, secure as needed, and then just change the hours when they want.
How do they get into the gym? What access do they use?
The pool gate, they have to go through the pool gate and the door across from the pool gate.
Do we have, okay, as part of this, do we have any provisions that we're thinking about as far as safety? So for example, and I know, again, this is still the same issue at 4 a.m. and back to my comments from the last meeting, I think we should have staff here at any time it's open. If that means having one person that's here at 24 hours now, but you know, I guess at 4 a.m., because if somebody goes in there and if you're open 24 hours, there will be plenty of times that there will be one individual in there. If they drop a weight on their head or if they slip and trip and hurt themselves, I mean, how are we protecting ourselves? And I know it's do it at your own risk, but you know, that doesn't stop somebody from suing you. You know, some gyms, they have a panic button, some gyms are monitored to some degree. I just, you know, I'm still probably gonna vote against it just because those are my concerns. I don't want to put the whole neighborhood at risk because, and you know, I know people want to use the 24 hours. It's a great concept, but I think that what you will find, and I can tell you as an example, there are some other close by districts that got a constant call to expand their hours, and then there were people on the board that weren't really for it,
but they went through with it and then they monitored it, and statistically, it's kind of like getting your gym membership January 1st. By February, nobody's there. So I'm gonna vote against it, but one thing I would recommend to the board is that we do track it so that if there's only 3 people using it all week between these odd hours, maybe you look to readjust, and you'll have the data to tell the residents that, look, we know everybody said a lot of people said they were interested in it, but, it's just not panning out that way. And I think you'll see that that'll probably show.
I 100% agree with that, right? I mean, I'm not doing it, just because of, I want the marketing aspect of it being on the part that I believe that there's a legitimate need for it out there. But I do agree with you. I think the analogy of January 1st joining a gym is a great analogy to that, right? People might say, hey, it's 10 p.m. I use the gym now, 4 a.m. I use the gym now, and then they stop using it. So I think it still should be monitored. We can always change it again. We can always add people. We can always, we can always adjust as we know where it's set in stone.
I'm gonna ask the board if you decide to do that. I want to add some more cameras in the hall area. And maybe the revision of areas in the gym. I'm not comfortable with open 24 hours. That's my personal opinion. I'm just gonna give you my opinion that matters, but I don't think it's a good idea.
To piggyback on to where I think Teresa might be thinking some of the problems might come from. With this 24 hours, this would be open to anybody that have a gym membership, so a 16-year-old, that sort of thing.
No different than a 4A.
Understand.
So here's the other alternative that I would say too, is for anyone voting no for this, I would question why you don't follow it immediately up with a modification to lock the gym down more than it is now. Because if the justification is not to approve this open because there's not people here at 4 a.m., then there should be such a concern to immediately fix that problem. I don't believe that's necessarily the major problem, so I'm not going to put that forth. But I would just recommend, instead of just declining this, I would say that it's something to change, because it does seem to identify that we're stuck in the middle here of ideal situations. So let's fix the situation with regards to this direction.
So I'm gonna say, I agree with Teresa. If we can get the necessary things that's going to give us the security with the cameras, I'll vote yes. But for right now, I would vote.
So Jack and Tom, did you guys want to put any input before we vote here?
So can we make it that we improve the camera system and lock down areas before we would open it within the 90-day period?
Yeah, I think that's what the motion was, is to get Teresa autonomy to improve the security of what we feel is necessary, and then.
Yeah, if, I would even amend it to give a $5,000 budget for, per discretion of improving the system. I don't think we need to go into the minutiae of what that is, nor would we want to on public record to share what the minutiae of that is. But I think that if she feels like there's more security needed, then absolutely. I want the facility to be secure. Absolutely. Okay.
Is there any insurance concerns?
We've already ran it by the insurance carrier, so certainly we want to make sure that they're aware, and if it requires additional rider, we want to verify that. I don't believe they indicated where it gets the recommendation with respect to the sign of the party.
I mean, the idea is we don't have to necessarily tell insurance agents that we're going to a 24-hour.
That's the public record.
Well, wow.
So again, if we can verify what coverage is, generally the insurance should not say, yes, we've got you covered for the hours of X to Y. It's whatever your policies are and whatever your assets are, we've got you covered for this amount of these kind of type of liabilities. So again, if we're making a change to our policy, every time we change the pool hours or any other facility, we don't request or need a modification with respect to that. And to John's point, we're already operating and there's no staff present. And again,
You guys ready?
But they can't.
24 hours still is inclusive of when you close down for lunchtime cleaning and all that sort of stuff, right? So I'm not saying that you have to, which.
Well, it's to mop the floor and do all that stuff too. I mean, we got the cleaning crew that comes in, so it can't be open 24 hours, it's gonna have to close for an hour.
So what are the hours today?
Well, the cleaning company comes after we close, so they come anywhere between 10 and 2, 3 in the morning.
Right.
It's according to what it's.
But
So
they,
I have
they
to
can
have
clean
the
it.
cleaning company,
Right?
you know, you're gonna close it for an hour, you're gonna clean around, you're not gonna be able to.
Why does it
clean
need to be closed?
They gotta mop the floor, they gotta sweep the floor, they have people sweating on the floor, it's gotta be.
That was just a quick thought, is that when cleaning of the gym happens, or has to happen, we just gotta figure that out. I don't personally see that you could send a cleaning crew in there while maybe you have 7 people working out. Just doesn't make sense. It's kind of like the courts, we shut the court down so we can maintain the court, then you can come play.
Right.
So it's just gotta be figured out.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're not gonna have someone working out when the cleaning crew's here at 2 a.m. either.
And it'd be.
I'm working with the cleaning company,
We-
hey, when you first
we-
come
we
in,
adjust it
if
with it.
you're
Yeah, exactly.
come in, if you have to keep people out of the gyms and off the floor, that's when.
Yeah, not a negative thing.
Yeah, we have a quiz for now.
Sure.
We're gonna look at fine details.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the vote here. All board members in favor of the motion to change the gym hours to 24/7, Monday through Thursday, with a $5,000 approval for additional security improvements to be done within 90 days prior to changing the hours. We have a motion by Josh, a second by Tom. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 1, 2, 3. Abstain. Any opposed? Motion carried.
No, it's okay.
I think abstain is a no.
John,
Yeah,
we'll call
you
you
do it in
over.
town, you're still here. So
Hey,
you're
I'm gonna do the initial walkthrough. I'm gonna do the walkthrough.
But it's recommend you put why that way in case someone asks.
So should you clarify?
Yes, exactly. You just want to provide a quick explanation for why you're saying, because again, for the residents, maybe or whatever, they may say, why aren't you voting on something that may impact them? If you don't have enough data or you're conflicted, just so they know, because as an elected official, it's good to put your vote on the record, and if you're abstaining, just a quick explanation on it.
I'm still not sure that the need is there yet. We talked about it, if somebody comes in and trashes the place or does something like that, well, we'll deal with that. But it seems like the remedy for dealing with it never covers the cost of something like that.
So you're saying Monday through Thursday, to me that doesn't make sense, it makes sense more than just Monday through Sunday.
Too late, sorry.
He's gonna
Make that next
I
I thought I was doing everybody a favor by doing Monday through Thursday. I look, again, I did not pose it just to have a marketing concept of saying we're open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. My understanding was that people needed it during the week. On the weekends, again, the people who voted no, I think you guys are more than welcome to fix the glitch here. I think that, the fact that we're open Saturday morning at 4:30 in the morning is something that, if that's the logic, should probably be fixed, so.
Nothing happens.
Yeah, and to your point, I do think that's a problem, as I stated last meeting specifically. I can certainly make a motion, but since this motion has already passed setting new hours, I don't see the purpose of it.
I would support closing hours on the weekends. I want the facility to be secure or, and accessible.
So we'll secure the same way we usually find secure,
Yeah,
even on the weekends.
And I was gonna say that I take that as that's happening, that the secure aspect of it would be applied towards the weekends as well. That does not solve my problems with the conditions of liability and those sorts of things.
Right.
Somebody injures himself at 4:30 on Saturday.
So why wouldn't the motion we put forward then to modify the weekend hours to only people are here?
I mean, I.
It's not my motion, I'm just.
Yeah, no,
why would we leave the gap there?
Yeah, because the reality is, it's a motion that it's not gonna get passed. I know that, so I've already stated my opinion on the record, and I'm satisfied with that.
Adjournment would be next if there's no other supervisor requests.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll look, nobody really wants to. vacation in June for a week.
You don't get vacation.
Just the one for now. If you need anything, I will not be at that June meeting, so if you need anything from me, you can let me know in advance, I need it for you.
What's going on budget wise? You know, from the-
And-
45 or whatever it was. It's been a-
Have a great.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries, adjourned.
Josh, you're gonna get invited tomorrow.
Go
You
ahead.
want me to send out? I don't know, but-
All done?